on. And
Yo, what's up? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This is Warden's Midwest. I'm your host, Terry Tertiary.
Brother Impact.
And today our special guest is Bella Royale of House of Royale.
Hey, y'all.
We are so excited to have her on today. She is another multidisciplinary creative and entrepreneur. And we're really excited to not only talk to her about her background and some of her passions, but as well as some of the current events that we're going to be going over today. You know, we always throw a little bit of extra into the mix, and it gets a little bit, mystic every once in a while. So
I'm still messing with that whole Smollett thing.
You love that so much. I think
I'm telling you, Smollett.
I think you should do a stand-up routine about that. I really
feel like I should.
You were like lightly obsessed with that.
Tell me about it. I've been seeing it on Instagram, and I want to know your perspective more about this.
I think it's hilarious that the cops are going so crazy over this, and they don't show that much interest in the murders. I think that Smollett is, well, I've been actually posting on my grandma. I was watching a couple interviews. One of them was Charlemagne, where they're over here joking about, we haven't seen enough gay dudes knock or beat people up. And you just see this smirk on Smollett's face, like, and he staged, the whole thing. If you look at the people, like they have actual pictures of people who were accused of it. These are some big bodybuilding, not gonna stick somebody up people. You know what I mean? I was drawing comparison to like what was it, Malibu's Most Wanted? When those two dudes are acting all hood, they gotta act all hood and stuff. Like, I think it's really messed up that you're trying to push an agenda, but you gotta do it in a fake way. You know what I mean? The agenda's fine. The agenda's great. You know what I mean? People stand behind that, but you feel like you have to fake it. Or you don't feel like you go out of your way to fake it, and then you mess with a lot of people, you know what I mean? And you do mess with, this city and how it goes, because it just highlights the crime. You know what I mean? So you're putting the spotlight on it over something so unnecessary, and then you look like a hypocrite, like, because I seen the interviews after, he's like, I just want, little black gay boys know that it's okay to fight back. Great message, but you just faked that whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, like how do people get behind that? You know what I mean? And how do you defend that? You can't really defend that. You're trying to stay in the limelight by any means. And I don't feel like you can defend that, because it's, it is what it is, really.
I see it as like, I still can't believe. I know he came out and he said, oh, yeah, I faked it, I did it. But I just don't see how somebody would fake and throw their career, their life away. Like, this is how you make your money. So after this, you fired off Empire. Everything's distraught. I just don't see why you would do that, how you would do that.
Well, he's super plugged, first of all. He's said to be the grandson or great-grandson of Joe Johnson, the boxer.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He is super connected, plugged with a lot of people. Big Mama's boy. I forget who his mama is. She's somebody really famous. But he's like really plugged amongst those circles. That's why he was
his whole family
pull that stunt.
They're all actors.
But that's what I mean. He was dying to be the face of that agenda for a while. I feel, and it shows in his act. He said it. You know what I mean? And it's not that I just feel it, but I don't think that he thought that he was throwing away. You know what I mean? People are in big webs. They're trying to catch attention. That show's big. Why not throw in a big story with it? You know what I mean? And who knows who else is behind it? That's not something you orchestrate by yourself. That's one of those things where it's like, he didn't go out to somebody really quick and say, do that by himself. There was a team of people right there telling him, do you take the blame away from him? No, he did it to boost his career up.
I'm going to just throw this under the bus right now, because I'm going to assume that has something.
Why did I do this right now? Like, I got to watch that. And put me on the internet. Illuminati.
Warden's Midwest has been Illuminati since day one. As you see here in some of their earlier episodes.
No, they're not. Not with this episode. Not with Bella Royale on here. Too much God on here. They're not doing nothing.
That's why they're not going to associate you. They're going to associate us with it. Griff's going to be.
They were attacking this.
Professor Griff.
Oh, yeah.
Popped in the ass. I apologize. I really do have to.
It's an inside joke with that.
Oh yeah, man. We think that's the funniest. That's the funniest. I feel like As far as little underground interviews, you know what I mean? When you get into topics of conspiracies, it's just every time you see Griff, that's I'm sorry, but it always ends with popped in it. Like I go behind the message. I appreciate the research, but every time he brings up a rapper, entertainer, popped in it. That I'm like, how is that your message? That's what people remember. Like I don't.
You know what they was doing? He be mad.
I all got popped in it.
No,
that's what. Well, that's like his inside joke for like the industry or whatever, like the mainstream industry, to get that level of exposure, those resources or acclaim, fame, views, all that jazz. You gotta get popped in the ass. This is what he says.
Thanks for putting that in context. I'd be trying to be funny.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in again. Once again, today our special guest is Bella Royale. She is and I don't want to undersell you, and sometimes when I'm not familiar with industries, I feel like I'm using that terminology. I would want to say like fashion designer, curator, but how would you define yourself?
I would define myself as a queen first. She is a queen, and that encompasses so many other things, and that says that I could wear so many different hats. I am the owner and the founder of the House of Royale, which is a fashion production company. I am the lead fashion stylist, so I am a fashion stylist. I'm a director, I'm a producer, a creative director to be exact. I see art, so I make art come alive. Yeah, it's a lot of different titles, but I don't really like to go by the titles. I'm an artist. I'm free to do whatever the hell I want.
Okay. So you create whatever art you feel like, whatever you're in the mood for, basically.
Yes, whatever I'm feeling. Whether that be, hey, I want some music to be made to accompany these shoes that I just designed, or hey, I feel like we should shoot a small film for this dress that I just created, or I went pulling and I went thrifting and I have an exclusive collection of vintage pieces and I want to create some clothes to match these pieces, or it just depends. So I do a lot of things and I don't want to put any titles on it. I'm also a radio host of the Royal Realm radio show on Q4 Radio. So it's a lot of titles.
There are too many titles. And forgive me, we are shorthand, and Wardens Midwest does a lot at once, so we promote ourselves while we're on the show. So if you ever see me like looking like I'm not interested or like I'm asleep, I'm actually not. I'm promoting. I think I'm gonna say that out loud now, just because I don't want people to think that, because I do have my eyes on loud. I just watched it. Anyway, thank y'all so much.
As awkward as that may be, let's just transition to our moment of silence for the grind.
Good time. I feel like it's had this space.
So how long you had the show running so far?
The radio show?
Yeah.
Today was my first episode of the Royal Realm radio show.
Okay, and how are you streaming now?
So it is streaming only right now. It's only coming from the radio station. If you tune in on q4.org, you can listen. And if you go to 1680 AM, you can listen to the show. Soon we're going to be streaming live. So we're going to be coming live on Instagram and Facebook. We're getting things set up with that.
That's what's up.
Are you going to make your own? Is it going to be straight from your personal page, or is it going to be like a specific page from Q4?
It's not going to come from the Q4 page. It may come from the Royal Realm page. So today we decided that the Royal Realm would be more so of a talk show. And I'm going to bring some of my sisters in to sit on the panel as co-hosts with me. I'm going to have Tuyani Akanke. And Tuyani is a very powerful force. That's my sister, a spiritual healer, educator, advocate for the youth. She is amazing. As well as my sister, Ivory Africa Moses. She is a writer. She's an author. She is writing a film called The Call, and I'm actually going to be working with her on the film, doing wardrobe. So I'm super excited to have Ivory and Tuyani sit with me on the Royal Realm, and we're going to be talking about everything from tea to fashion to what's going on in the community to politics to how to master self Today we were dropping a whole lot of jewels as far as spirituality, knowing thyself, loving thyself, being in one with thyself, and being one with the community and unity. So it's just a mix of so much that we're going to bring, just like all things that are Bella Royal. The spectrum is so big that I can't even just box it with a couple of categories.
Well, I actually had the pleasure of listening in to the show this morning, and it was actually definitely a unique show. It was a unique and powerful show, especially for a first show. This is your first time doing radio at all?
Man, first time doing radio. I was like, listen, my producer was promoting on Facebook, and she was like, you know, it's the general anybody want a radio show call. And I was like, oh, shoot, I want a radio show. And then, boom, I had a radio show, just like that.
Don't you love when it comes together that easily? So I think one of the most beautiful parts of the show today, and I'm not sure if this is going to continue, but today it felt like a round table of just like different people who were like overtly spiritual within their own practices. Like I knew like you said that your producer was on the show. She's in radio. I'm not sure what other background she may have, but she's in radio. You were somewhat like you were known, I'll say, to be involved in fashion as well as now a whole bunch of other endeavors as well. Yes. We're going to get into a few of those later on the show, actually all of them, or as many as we can. And the other lady that was there was actually into like that was her practice. I think at the end of the show, she said, Tiana, she said that was her. So the whole conversation, no matter what it drifted to, you know, we're actually going to get into a few of these topics today, but Nipsey Hussle was one of the topics that drifted there, and that even opened up a whole doorway for spirituality within the African American community that they were discussing, and how we can heal as a community and individually, which I've spoken on previously, and I think is a really powerful message for our community in general. But I really do appreciate how everyone was speaking from that place and like normalizing that, because where we came from as a culture, as far as like African Americans, and even I mean, let's say that like even you know, obvious Mexican American, people of color, we speak spirituality on a regular basis is natural, like not like hiding it or like it's a norm, like you know what I mean. Like, it's a science versus like it would be respected more in our society if we call spirituality science, I guess. Yes. And that's how we behave. We behave as just like, oh no, this is just we do this and then this happens. Basically, that's how we behave. You know? And I really did appreciate it.
With the whole Nipsey Hussle thing is that it opened up the discussion about AIDS and people being targeted. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a martyr of sorts. It sucks, but I mean, people really respected this person. You know, he was a role model. You can say what you want, but he was a role model. You know what I mean? He did speak a positive message. He spoke very righteously, and righteousness goes with spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Your soul naturally does right. You know what I mean? You sabotage that, you know? And yeah, hopefully, you know, they really do get some knowledge out there, you know, and hopefully people are held accountable, because everybody's feeling like I feel like, you know, in general, the population is pessimistic. You know, as soon as you hear something, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but nobody's going to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? When it's something this big, it really gets people optimistic. You know what I mean? So hopefully that carries on to some type of good energy. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, people just want affirmation that they're not crazy. You know what I mean? You know, minorities feel in this country, because it's built like that, persecuted because we have been. You know what I mean? And we need that. I mean, we need the population to be like, no, this is a fact, and everybody knows it's a fact now. Yeah. You know, there's no way you can dispute it. We need that, because we look crazy sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's not.
You're trying to make us look crazy.
It's not to say it's our fault. It's built that way, but at the same time, we really could get together behind something. You know,
that's what I really do enjoy. I remember
stuff out there like that. But
there was
the whole Dr. Sebi.
Yeah. Most definitely. I really want to get into that too. I just want to get first one.
Of course. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was about to dive directly into that too. But before we do that, Bella, where are you? Are you from Chicago, or where are you from?
Well, that's interesting.
You know, I know, but I have to ask that question. Like, where are you from?
First of all, can I request everything with me is about the look? Can this camera come down a little bit so I can see I'm just saying. Oh,
I mean, actually, wait. You can stand up. Hold on, wait. Actually, if y'all would
now y'all see her. Come on.
enjoy, you know, if you want, you can stand up and give a little turn.
Listen, no, we don't need no turn. They just need to see this piece. Make sure you shop with me. She keeps the flyers. But no, I was born in Chicago, and I was raised back and forth between Chicago and Grenada, Mississippi, which was a big culture shock and a big culture difference. So I have a mixture of Chicago in me. Like, I'm real West Side. I be with it. And at the same time, I'm country. I want a couple of hog mogs, some greens and whatnot.
Well, they do that on the West Side anyway, so it's good.
I thought there was a couple more soul food places you could just.
It's about to be summer.
A couple people going. It's like there's a lot of families from down south that moved up here. So.
That's true. They're trying to say they moved up here to the West Side too. You know,
I heard it.
They're trying to say the West Side. We with it. That's all. You know, but currently I live on the South Side of Chicago. So while I'm claiming the West Side, I live in Chatham, Inglewood. You know, 74th. What's up?
So, as far as the difference in South Side and West Side, what are the things that stand out, being that you're here right now compared to where you grew up?
Okay, so I can totally say the South Side of Chicago is. Can we say curse words?
Yeah, of course.
It's black as hell, and I love it. It's so black. It's so much.
You use as not a curse word.
Oh,
black as hell.
Oh, well, that was the curse word. Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, depending on
she was on radio this morning. Makes sense.
Yeah. Depending on who's taking it, but the South Side is full of culture. The South Side has a different atmosphere. The South Side got Mariano's and Whole Foods and stuff. Like, Woodlawn was the hood, and now it is one of the hubs for Black creativity. So I have to give it to the South Side that they are more proactive, they are more united, and more creative, more artsy. They're more into things that I can relate to. The West Side is not so much. Kind of the hustle and bustle, same old thing.
I feel like the geography plays a big part, though, in the West Side and the South Side, because everybody knows that South Side is very checkerboard. Everything's laid out straight, so the communities are easy to say this is a community.
Yeah.
The West Side is spread out. It's the Wild West. You know what I mean? It's like cracking anywhere. You know what I mean? And spaces in between. I feel like the South Side's got a little more structure, and I don't mean that in street. I mean in all levels. It had a little more structure. You know, Bronzeville, I guess that's considered the low, but still South Side.
Yes, and still developing. All these neighborhoods on the South Side are developing.
Bronzeville has some of the most amazing architecture. As far as like, have you been in those houses? Those houses are amazing. They look like some straight up. What's it called? Cosby Show, like home. You know what I mean? Like, there's gorgeous houses and stuff and architecture. I grew up on 55th and Wood. Same thing. Like, you know what I mean? Bad neighborhood, amazing buildings. I'm talking about like great buildings, just beautiful.
Yes.
Spacious, fireplace, real fireplace, like in a big complex. You know what I mean? It's just beautiful architecture. It's just you want to see all the hood kind of like get like that. Not where it's a thing about hipsters moved in, or you know what I mean?
Gentrification.
Now, I know it's gentrification, but I'm speaking specifically what happens in Chicago, because the only new neighborhoods that are, you know, kind of like reforming are the ones where the hipsters are running the streets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's still, you can see the resemblance of the hood. You see the hood in everything, but it's tamer to a certain point. Yeah. And that's where gentrification starts. It's the more urban people.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That had to make the transition initially. It's happening. It's happened in New York. I feel like it hasn't happened completely in Chicago yet. You know what I mean? And there's been a lot of change in Chicago.
But it's happening. And I'm going to tell you how I know it's happening. Because when you can be on 63rd Street and see Becky running down the street with her joggers on. Girl, what you doing? You gonna get mud.
That's regular shit.
Girl, what you doing?
Becky, what you doing, baby? Running down the 69 with your joggers on. You just a little too close to the hood, baby. You better go back across the street and get real over here. But you know, that's when you know that the neighborhoods are evolving and changing. And it's more of that on the south side than it is on the west side. The west side is pretty stagnant. But there
actually, it started to stretch out.
When you go towards North Lawndale, Amara running for mayor was a huge thing for the, you know what, and I'm not even going to do the west side like that. Let me tell you, the west side has wonderful political candidates, wonderful people who are actively in the community and doing work. So even though the neighborhood isn't developing, the people are still developing on the west side because of the activists and the leaders that they have.
I know. I mean, I feel like I've worked with Danny Davis. I mean, I feel like they do a lot of things. People don't, you know, people always think politician and put a bad name on it. But if you look at accomplishments like actual policy passed, I mean, there is a lot of people that are doing for the community. You can't control everything as a whole, and it has a lot to do with economics. But yeah, you bet your ass there's a lot of people out there right now that are really making changes happen. And even down that stretch of Roosevelt, you know Jewtown used to be if you know what I'm saying, if you grew up in Chicago, that was, you know what I'm saying, for a lot of people that was a nightmare to go to. You know, it's cracking all the time, like.
And that was reality for me growing up. That was like,
oh no,
it was a nightmare for them, and it was like, yo, that's regular. What's up?
Yeah,
like, duh, move out the way. This crackhead tripping. Like, oh my.
No, I don't want to fucking porno. Get that away from me.
Right? No, I don't want loud. I don't want no loud. I don't want no nicks. Like, look, I'm 13. Stop yelling drugs at me. Like,
no, I'm not going that way. It's dark. What the fuck?
Like, no. And no,
I'm under the light of these damn hot dog stands.
I can't check it out. No, I cannot come check it out. And I don't want to buy no socks. Look, I don't want no socks, no CDs, no DVDs.
Hey, the socks were a lick, though. The socks were a lick. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Socks. Hey, they were. I'm just telling you from, like, going through it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, true, that come in clutch because they used to give you a good amount. Like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm not saying nowadays. I'm talking about when it was Jewtown.
Yeah, they gave you 10 pair of socks for $5. It was worth it.
So, did any of that what influences would you say
this is strong, man,
brought into your? I have actually not tasted those. I've been promoting.
By the way,
shout out Warden's Midwest.
Oh, and shout out Stockyard Coffee.
Yes, Stockyard. This is popping, whatever this is.
That's a Mexican mocha, just so you know.
It got me feeling litty.
That Southside sign in there for a little bit.
Those cinnamon, little chocolate ones.
Perfect enough sweetness.
Appreciate you.
Same time. I enjoy it.
So thank you so much for tuning in, listening in, viewing. We'll get into the discussion a little bit sooner than later. But if y'all enjoy this, make sure y'all like and subscribe. Follow us, Warden's Midwest, on everything. It's House of Royale. It is House of Royale. It is House of Royale. _ on IG from Miss Bella Royale. And
you know what? Spell it out loud too for people who ain't looking at this.
It's House is HOUSEOFROYAL _ and my phone is talking. Make sure y'all follow all of us. Oh yeah, Impact _ JC for Brother Impact. And actually, if you just go to the Wardens, you'll see both of us. You can follow us. But continue with the interview. Did the Southern influence from Mississippi or the like melting pot influence of Chicago influence your dressing style? Because as looking on your page, you can see, at least more recently, there's a little bit more of the what I would like to call, I know it's not Southern Belle because there's guys involved too, but the Southern Belle style is what I would like, in my mind, I would say, because like you can see in some of those like 1800 films that they put in America and stuff like that. But there's like a modern feel to it. So what would you say?
I would say that the Southern roots and the Southern side of me definitely inspire a lot of my fashion, a lot of what I do in life in general, a lot of who I am. But at the same time, the urban, like, listen, I'm from the culture. I real quick hit them with a whole tailored two-piece suit and a do-rag and some J's. Like what?
Yeah, I feel like your inspiration is, like you said, even almost Victorian, Southern.
Yeah.
And then it's got an 80s flair. Like that's what sticks out, like 80s flair. Like the pop, you know what I mean? The pop that you got on everything. That neon just, you know what I mean? And that's a great mixture, you know what I mean? Because it looks very humble down. It, you know what I mean? That's a great look, you know what I mean? To pop out and still look humble. And I feel like it's, you know what I mean? It actually gives you a focus on the fashion and not just the frame, you know what I mean? And that's a good thing to stand out like that. You know, it's a natural way to stand out. You know, certain brands, like, I don't know, it's got to have that thing. Like Fashion Geek, I feel like, is one of those things where it's like that duck. You know what I mean? That dork. It's like in the hood, dork. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I love that stuff. I had a couple, you know what I mean? And you always get notices, you know what I mean, once you catch that. But it's, again, that was the actual look behind this dork. And then it just evolved into the hood merger. And you know what I mean? It evolved with the culture, with the time. And you know what I mean? Big up to that brand real quick too. Because anybody in Chicago knows that's a big thing.
That's a big brand. And those colors that the brand used, shout out to them for the colors that they use. Because those primary colors, I feel like are so, what's the word? Important. That's what I'm saying. The primary colors are so important because understanding the basis. When I first started the House of Royale, I did everything in red, yellow, and blue. Why? Because you can create everything from that. And so it is a representation that I am a creator. And from what I have, I can create anything with this palette.
Well, primary colors.
I feel like that's really big.
On real side note, that just reminds me, and this is just on some real side school. It ain't to brag no shit like that, but I was in a little gifted program. They had a little triathlon type of sorts, you know what I mean, with different schools and everything. My school did horribly. I'm not going to shout out the school because I got a lot of respect for them and stuff like that, but the gifted program was not really backed well. It was just put together, you know what I mean? And I remember with them asking what are the primary colors and being the only person in my damn team who knew what the primary colors were.
What?
But I mean, it really shows you like how sometimes you don't get the right spectrum of what you're supposed to be learning. Because that is a very basic, for a gifted program, not to know that that is a very basic thing that you want to get a kid in tune with. Just like ABCs, yellow, blue, red is ABCs in the colors. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's a shame because. But at the same time, I don't mean to take away. Like you said,
art is a game for some people. Art is the part of school that's not to be taken seriously. So maybe that's why a lot of those kids didn't get those primary colors because you learn that most at that point where everything is art. But people look at art, they look at art as playtime, and that's not actuality. That's not the reality of it. If people took art time and took it serious with their kids, which is actually what I want to do, so this is still in topic because this is what I do. When you have arts and crafts time with these kids and you take it and you tell these kids, it's value in this art that you just made. It's value in this work that you just made. The kids start to take it serious and the whole ideal of it becomes another aspect of living, another aspect of life. To say, I can do this creative thing and I can still live in life and be successful.
I agree. But I don't think the city gets enough credit for having that. You know what I mean? Because we used to not have it with the programs and actual art. It used to just be a art time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like draw something real quick. We might talk about it if you want to bring it up. If not, then it's just, you know, art time. And now, especially in Chicago, the schools are very well funded when it comes to after school and I mean across the board.
It's just not
in bad neighborhoods. Yeah. It's well funded now because there's people that really do care, like yourself, and they haven't left. That's what people don't understand. The educators haven't left. You know what I mean? Aside from everything else that's going on with educators and education and unions, unions is a very devilish thing that's making educators look thirsty. and I'm not saying that they are, but it's making
not
it
a
look
good
like
thing.
it
It's not a good thing to accomplish, so they gotta
exactly
they gotta
because
appeal to either one. It's
victims
like
are the
two
students.
Mhm.
They hold students. The students have gotten held hostage in the last 5 years more than a handful of times, and it's really sad that
That's what they do. They like
that the unions are doing that. The one thing I remember from school is that the teachers, and they were, especially I feel like I had really great teachers growing up. I was in, you know what I'm saying, I was in the best neighborhood, but I had really great teachers, and that in itself doesn't get enough, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
credit. I lost my train of thought. This happens to me once a show. So let's transition into you guys.
So what I was going to say,
Wait, I want to comment on that because what we did say, which says that the programs are funded well. I don't think that's true. What I do think, though, is that the educators haven't left, and that's the core.
Yeah.
But the programs are not funded well.
But they're there.
They give.
Okay, so let's compare Chicago to another city.
They give them money to outsource the programs, and the schools don't always dictate that some of those programs are as important as like maybe after school, like tutoring for standardized testing. That's what really happened. That's why me going in and I'm an after school educator. So me going in and doing after school for music, because they don't have a music teacher. They literally know it's like, well, we teach music once a week because the music teacher is actually somebody, the principal's, pianist at their church, and they're gonna come in on this day when they off. And that's like, that's not a music teacher. That's not what music is, and it doesn't showcase kids like, oh yeah, this song is cool, and this we can all sing. In Ohio, they made us sing West Virginia all the time because we're in Appalachia. So we would sing that song, but like, if you can't see how impactful that is, like that song is just West Virginia, but everybody in West Virginia and all of Appalachia sings that song. If you can make a song like that, like you said, if you can make your art like that, or if you make a song that appeals to a demographic, you can make that happen. And I had to get to that point with the kids, but it took all of it. It literally took, and that's not the first school I've seen it at, because I've worked in like 3 or 4 different schools, and it's always like that, high school or elementary.
Let me just add on to that. I might have worded it wrong, and I do see where it comes off from. What I'm saying is that these programs actually exist in Chicago with music, with extracurriculars. Yeah. Okay, so it might, and I agree with you. The way I didn't mean it at all in the way it came out. But what I'm saying is that people in Chicago are exposed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Through education, they are exposed to a lot of things that other even big cities do not give to students. And it's not that the big cities give it to them, it's the people there that do. You always had in these schools a teacher who was just wild about that. Yep. And I feel like I'm saying, with these changes with the union and all of that, you don't get that anymore because it's about money.
Sure.
You know what I mean? People make it a money move now, and educators used to be very passionate. You were, as an educator, you expected not to make much money. That was the most common conversation that people would have for a teacher. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. That was the first one.
They actually slightly changed it now. When you have like bigger cities like this, they get a little bit more than what they would in most.
Yeah, and people get upset because they know teachers, they are educators, this and that. They'll get upset with me when I say that, and I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of flaws in the school systems and stuff like that. But right now, I think the biggest flaw is that the teachers aren't there. Just like students have a problem with ADD and social media, the teachers do too. Yeah. They are so popular. They are so nice. They are this and that. They're full of themselves. And that's not, and they want to make money. And they want to get up there. And that's what their topic is. It's not the change that they're making. Yeah, sure, that builds it up. But they monetize it.
Yeah. They want to climb that ladder of, and you know what? I think that comes to talk to our society where everybody is, to where no matter the industry, no matter the field, people are losing passion for what it is they do, and everything is becoming about the dollar, because times are becoming harder, I guess, in a sense. But we all know who our president is, Cheeto. Cheeto make everything harder. Cheetah. Yeah. Yes, Cheeto. I say it on public realms. I'm saying it on TV. Cheeto.
When he's mad, flaming hot.
Yeah, mad, flaming hot. Cheeto, man, like to make everything harder. So
flame on.
We don't know what's going to happen, so we need
Let's not just blame president. Let's blame Drake too. Let's blame other leaders in other fields. Why? Because everybody's behind. He's successful. He makes hits. That's the standard. He gets money. That is the standard. come on, can't nobody really stand behind him as a man. I feel like a man can't stand behind Drake as a man. A girl could be, you know what I'm saying, because he targets, you know, those emotions that they hit, and he's trying to target that in guys too. Well, the truth is he's run out of his own ideas. Everything's everybody else's movement, and again, the only thing that backs him up, even when he gets brought out for not writing his music, even when all this, he's successful. It works. Well, that's a team. You're getting behind a team of people that are just generating money out of everything. You know what I mean? And they know they're not a role model to you.
Yeah.
And they know if they are, it's in a way to become a consumer. Nothing else, as a consumer. You know what I mean? And again, it's our president, but the president wouldn't be able to pull it off if not. See, they make it a race issue. This is everybody's point of view. They're extreme on stuff because they feel like they know everything from being exposed to information. You know what I mean? Because information is easy to look up.
We're in an information age, and anybody can put information out, so it can be tainted.
Anybody can spin it. You can get the same information through somebody else, and it's a complete different message. And like I said, we could blame the head, we could blame, but at the same time, it's like, thank God we got people as examples like Nipsey Hussle. Why are those people disappearing so quick? XXXTentacion, everybody was tarnishing his name with all these cases that he has, but all these people are getting locked up, with the exception so far of Nipsey. As far as I've seen, he kept his nose clean as he was in the game, and he did the mature thing. Yes. What we would have seen Biggie do if they had killed him. Yes. What we would have seen our leaders do if they would have. XXXTentacion could have had 500,000 or 500 million followers. You know what I mean? People that are really into his message.
People were
seen that because he brought out the frequency of real emotion.
And as much as he did have a negative past, I feel like we always, whenever we reveal a light on a lot of our leaders, even from the past, we're like, damn, have we known that while they were on their rise to power? Will we have respected or received their message the same way?
Let me say something on that. Leaders, this is the thing about being a leader. And let's even go into a little bit of Jesus real quick, right? Leaders are people who've been through something. You can't lead nobody if you ain't been through nothing. You never been nowhere. You don't know where they're going to. I trust somebody who done been in jail before to help me not get back there. You see what I'm saying? It's somebody who's never been. But if you've been in that thing before, you know how they go. I trust you fully to help me not get back in this situation. So when we look at the life of our leaders, that has to happen. Everybody who is great has had to go through some type of struggle, whether it be you're on your way up in fame and you had to struggle financially before you got something. To be a person of integrity, to be a person who has done work on yourself and you able to help other people heal, you gotta hurt to heal. So when it comes to looking at their past, it's like they did it, yeah, but it's about what are they doing now? And also, are they really living examples of the change? Because it's some of those people who do stuff and then they stop doing it for a little while. Here's R. Kelly, you know what I'm saying? He did some stuff and he stopped doing it for a little while. And it was like, okay, he ain't no pedophile because he stopped for a little while. You know what I'm saying? Start back. It's all about what you do and be consistent in your doing of that thing after you change as a person.
I would agree with that. I want people to see it that way because one of my most influential leaders is don't speak on that because we gotta continue on the topics.
They killed Michael Jackson, goddammit. He ain't touched no fucking kids. It would have really been out. I don't give a fuck who's backing it up saying that shit. They killed his ass. Like he finally freed himself and they killed his ass. Like, what the fuck?
He owned too much. He was too powerful. He was too powerful.
Where does Midwest approve this message? Sometimes I say, like, we can't stand behind it. I 100% approve that message. Like, I can't. I 100% believe that. I don't care. If anyone doesn't believe or wants to argue, I put up all the facts and all the people that was real close to him that knew stupid shit was going on.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
Anyway.
But you said it was building up.
Being a leader, you do have to go through those transcendent moments. I think one of the best moments I had when, like, before I got to a platform of truly being a leader, like while I was still in school, I was getting a little bit of leadership, was in frat, blah, blah, black community looking up to, me and 9 to 10 other, young black men and a lot of, like, 20 other black women within our community. And we had this moment and we were celebrating Black History, and I was told to read a Malcolm X poem. And when I read it, I remembered a lot of what I learned about Malcolm X in that moment of me becoming a leader. You learn things about leaders beforehand, and then sometimes you don't get the opportunity to learn as you're in that space. And it reminded me. I was reading one of his poems. I can't remember poems. One of his speeches. I think it was a speech when he came back from his pilgrimage. When he came back from his pilgrimage from the Middle East. So he had finally walked with, men who were white and Chinese or like any other nationality that were also followers of Islam. And he had that complete world experience that changed his view on how he felt like people should actually come together and love one another. So when he said that, he rebuked a lot of his earlier statements on how he felt about things. And it wasn't like he didn't feel like he was still prideful and encouraging and still supportive and felt like the Black community should come together and be strong all on its own. It just meant that though there can be community standing alone, they can also work together. And when I learned that, it was like he was like almost, I felt like if he was in the elevator with a white dude by himself, I felt like he was at a point where he would just whoop that white dude's ass and run out before anybody could do anything. Sometimes I felt that way about
I don't think he would have ran.
Well, not even right about that.
I think he would have kicked him a couple times and then was like, "What's up?"
But at that point in his life, I think it's like not too long before someone assassinated him. He had reached a moment where he was like, "I see a point. It's not that I was wrong. It has nothing to do with that. It's like a movement can change, and I can change myself in how I'm directing." How that energy should flow, or how.
But that is spirituality. I think more than it's not always involved, but is be willing to change. Mm-hmm. It's not always an evolving thing. You don't always escalate yourself or anything like that, but you have to be open to. I was wrong. You know what I mean? But that's why I'm doing this. Is to unlearn it out.
Unlearning. That's what it is. It's being able to unlearn things for the sake of righteousness. And I'll say that, like, oh, this is righteous. I can't not teach this in what I'm doing, even if this went against what I previously thought, because it is righteous.
Side note, my most difficult speech, I used to always do like little plays and stuff like that when I was in a certain school, but I was in an all-Black school, and out of everyone, they chose me to do I Have a Dream. Do you know how difficult that was? My family was like, aside from like one other kid that I knew, the only non-Black, you know what I mean, students in that whole school, it was the most difficult thing to stand up in front of people. I already didn't make eye contact. I looked really, really, I don't want to use a bad term, but I was doing this a lot. I don't want to say any of our icons or anything and pulling them in the dirt, but I was really doing this most of the time. No, but I killed that speech. But it was really the most wrecking thing I've ever done publicly in front of somebody, because you're taking that. But you know what I mean? If you listen to those words, you know what I mean? I did come up with my own thing where I just put the play on top of a book like he had it. You know what I mean? So I was able to read it that way. I didn't have to memorize it, and I paused because I'm a kid and I have to read it. I look back at that; it looks so great. You know what I mean? But to this day, I did go back to that school. I visited teachers and stuff, and that's the first thing they brought up. It brings a break. No, they told me I'm brave. You know what I mean? I was a brave little kid to do that in front of everybody, because everybody's initial. You could have chose anybody. Like, you know what I mean? But I was always a smart kid, articulate kid. So I think somebody seen that in it, and you know what I mean? That's the beauty of people. And that was the biggest difference in my education. You know what I mean? I feel like I did associate a lot of my teachers with, you know what I mean, people that really cared about all of this. Where, you don't feel that a lot outside of, certain, like the community when I grew up in the all-Black community, I really looked up to the teachers. I did. And when I moved out of there, there was a couple of teachers as well. One that stood out was the only Black male teacher, Mr. Guy. And
Mr. Guy.
His name was Mr. Guy. Legit, I remember this stuff. He was third grade, you know what I mean, teacher. But that's impactful to see a man that's just a man about stuff and talking to you like, while the teachers are like, oh, stop this. You know what I'm saying? He'll just point something out on you real quick and be like, damn, I am. Quick, but he knows what he's talking about because you see this as a strong man, you know what I mean? And he's a teacher. Blows your mind, you know what I mean? But it's sad that it does, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I feel like, I don't mean it in a bad way. In these times that we're at, where it's a beautiful time to celebrate women and, you know, the divinity that's come about, and I respect that 100%. But that doesn't mean men stop being masculine. You got to really celebrate that too, because that bar is not being drawn. Women need men, and you know what I mean? As they're evolving in ways with, I mean, in life, as far as your aspects of employment, as far as your opinions and views, and you know what I mean, overall power. You know what I mean? Men have to keep to their formula of being men, and we in this age we didn't grow up with a lot of leaders. Just like I just pointed out, that one teacher, it was only one teacher that we had that was a male black teacher, and
but I feel like within that we can also take a lot from what women are doing right now. Women are.
Oh yeah, that was my first thing. It was like that was my first thing. I'm saying our role. I can't talk for all the women.
I want to step in and say this because maybe y'all feel as if y'all can't say this because y'all men. We need more men teachers. We need that structure.
Yeah.
We need that with these youth because y'all direct about certain things, you know.
And that's what I mean by men is that we are different energies, and that energy's got to be up. We can't be like, oh yeah, because it's then that's demeaning to you. You know what I mean? And it's a hard role to play. But I'm not saying. See, masculinity has nothing to do with dominance. That has nothing to do. It's just you're a representation of men, and a man has different energies than a woman does, and we're wired differently, and it's fine, but we work well together. And if we didn't work well together, we would not be here at this moment. You know what I mean? As simple as access we have to war. War is easy. You know what I mean? It's the access we have to communication. But it's men and women that keep it balanced. You know what I mean? And they're trying to erase that line. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I feel like when that's what's being advertised all the time, it's not for our benefit. Anything that's being advertised big is not for our benefit. I don't trust anything getting advertised big. What a relationship is between a person, no matter race, preference, anything is between them. And that's what people don't understand. Why are you even talking about your personal stuff?
I say to that. Because you grow. That's something I've been learning in life too. When you're grown in life and you live your own damn life, what you do in your personal time is nobody's business. You can lay your baton. I was to say Dick and Harry, but that sounds bad. I don't want to say that. I can't even say that. Like, that can't even come out of me. That's a part of my queendom. I couldn't even say that word about it like that.
Yeah.
But you can lay up with any random person. And it's nobody's business because it's what you do within your personal space, your personal time, you live your life. A lot of people don't understand that though, because a lot of people are not in alignment with themselves. Because when you're in alignment with yourself, you'll give a damn what the next person thinks because you know you okay inside of you. But sometimes when you're not fully sound and you can't really stand in your shit strong, then you can wobble and you can waver based on other people's opinions of you and your life and what you do. I don't know if I went off track right there.
No, that's exactly where it was at.
Okay.
And it's just that it's what you do between a person is your business. Now, if you're discriminated for a reason and there's an example of it, prosecute that. Yes. Go after that. Yep. And if it isn't prosecuted, just like, you know, minorities, blacks especially, don't get justice when it comes to police brutality, and then in the court system, just not getting justice, it's not a lie.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's not statistical and it's like historical because it's been persistent for so many decades and generations and centuries even. But before we dive into that, we're going to get to those discussion questions, but there's so many layers we got to unpack, Miss Bella Royale. And I want to ask the question of, I do know a little bit about your creative direction history, so I want you to speak a little bit about that. Like, what is some of the maybe the events? Yes, it is. Once again, Stockyard Coffee. Shout out to them again. But what are some of the examples you can talk about, or some of the best experiences you can describe for some of the audience about your you being involved in creative direction for some artists in the city? And if you don't mind mentioning, you can feel free to mention it too.
Okay, I can mention. I have some artists who I love, like the Royal Tribe. Shout out to my team. Shout out to the artists who rock with the House of Royale, who constantly get styled by the House of Royale. Shout out to everybody who books me for their performances, for their shows, for their music videos. I'm gonna give a shout out to Freddie O's show. Freddie O. So a shout out to my brother, Shy to Money. Yeah, shout out to Money and Freddie O. So let's see, it's a list that goes on and on. But when it comes down to creative direction, Freddie also has a video called Honey. It was random one day. What I like to do with a lot of the artists that I work with is that we create based off emotion, how we feeling. It'll be a day where we like, listen, this shit heavy. I need to get something off of me. And I'm like, let's create, let's do this. Because I feel like if my friends are a videographer, a photographer, an artist, I'm a wardrobe stylist, she a makeup artist, and we all chilling anyway, or we all going through something in life right now, and we all need to, instead of coming together to drink and to smoke together, let's come together to smoke this doogie and then it's work.
Alchemy.
Let's come together.
Alchemy, transmutation, negative energy into positive energy.
Into positive energy.
So for everyone who hasn't kept up with that, that just means take advantage of your environment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean take advantage of people. The chance to do something. To do something on a collaborative level. A collaborative level meaning everybody benefits mutually. And if it's not a benefit that's mutually, and that's something, because I'm going to get back to the artists that I work with, but something we have to realize as artists in the industry, everything might not benefit you mutually, but if you're working within the collective, somebody in the collective got to blow for the collective to blow. Somebody got But people don't get that. It gotta be them. It gotta be them.
It's gotta be me. I put in the most work.
And it can't
always be I'm the guitarist. I'm the lead vocalist. I'm the writer. I'm the
I put in the most time. What?
Yeah. Like what?
What song is that?
Right? We all have to put in work and bag somebody. Like if the city of Chicago came together right now and put in all our underground artists, say we said the next artist that was gonna blow was gonna be Terry, and we all came together. We sharing, we posting.
Man, Donald Trump would drop a nuclear bomb in Chicago.
I'm gonna change the culture of that.
Oh, look at that!
North Korea
declared war. Like all of a sudden.
Mark my words.
What's this big ass glass
dome? Unite the artists. I am going to unite the artists, and we're gonna be all collaborating together. But the artists that I work with, I love them because that is how we collaborate. We collaborate together on the scale of I need this and I need this. Well, let me help you with this and let me help you with that. So Freddie has a video and it's called Honey. We did this video one day. You can find it on YouTube by Freddie Osro, Honey. We did a video one day randomly with her, actually her baby's father. Shout out to Chill. He's a videographer. And we were like, look, let's create something. We got together, we got Freddie's style, we got her ready. And I was like, you know what, this one for the culture, let's go in the corner store. So instantly, I walk in the corner store and I'm like, hey, you know, we're going to shoot a film in here today. I'm just letting you know in advance. Like, I'm not asking for permission because this is our culture. When you make so much money off us, I ain't asking for no permission. Listen, we're going to come here, we're going to make a video, period.
You thought you were being subtle and subliminal. I know what the fuck that means. I don't want to talk to that person. I talk to you.
Yeah. Like we're making a video, and so that's how that happened. We went in the corner store, and it just naturally flowed. We made that. I've done a lot of work with Shot to Money, the Love Drink video. You can see some styling in there for me, but the home video, you can see a lot of creative direction for me as well as styling the whole video. Shanae Mosley has a music video out that is fall, and you can see wardrobe provided by me. I have a fashion film that's out. That's another thing. I do a lot of things with a lot of people, but I build my own tables. I don't give a damn about nobody giving me an opportunity. I create my own. That's why I do so many different things. So the best creative direction that you can see from Bella Royale is some of Bella Royale's own work. I have a fashion film, Trapping Out the Bando, and that was directed by me exclusively. Well, I ain't gonna say exclusively because Charmin Drummond was there. She was my videographer. Shout out to Team Strawberry. That's my sis. We create a whole lot together. I love her much. Well, yeah, I love her much.
Muches is not a bad word to use. You can muches. Yeah, cute.
Love her muches.
Muches.
But yeah, to see some of my creative direction, the best thing to do is to look. But I kind of stand out when it comes to photography, when it comes to creative direction. When you look at some of my work, that's one of the things that kind of make me iconic too. Shout out to Christopher Thought Poet, my brother, one of my favorite shooters. I can't stand him sometimes. You want to punch him in his eye, but it's something about when we collaborate that God says yes, God says yes, God says yes.
She means film, guys. Don't assume shit because it says Southside.
Yeah, but shout out to Christopher. Some of the best work that you'll see is the art that we have done together, and that direction comes when you take all these iconic artists and all these iconic people and you put them in clothes that does not represent their artist image at all. It takes them from who the cool person who they are, you know, every day, and put them in some old school clothes and then tell them to still be cool at the same time. Like that's what my images are, and it's pretty interesting. And that's where you'll see most of my creative direction in my work. Yeah.
And
but you'll see a lot coming too.
That will change you. Your clothes will change your feels. Just like your haircut will change. Try not getting a haircut for 2 months for whatever reason, too busy, whatever. People treat you different. So, of course, you are different. You know what I mean? So, that's interesting to not give a person an idea that you're doing this, but capturing the best parts of it.
Yes. Yes.
So I was thinking we could just play the some of the music. But I want to ask one more question before we take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to begin this like roundtable discussion, if you will. Who is that? Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. If y'all enjoy this, please like and subscribe. Follow us on some of the, we left a couple of the links earlier.
But mostly on here for now.
Yeah, just follow us on here. Like and subscribe. We're going to play a little music from some of the videos she said she helped with creative direction.
And where can they follow you again if they've kept up this far?
They can follow me on Instagram at House of Royale _ House of Royale. Facebook, Bella Royale. And yeah, you can catch me on 74th and Sings at the Divine House of Royale, which is opening May 1st. That is the community center / retail store that your girl is working on. Stay tuned for that.
Retail store.
Well, this first one is Honey by Freddie Olso. Hope y'all enjoy it.
I got what you need. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Yeah. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Say I got what you need. I just received. Niggas want the honey, but they ain't the bee. I just go steam. Or maybe I just live. I'm just trying to do it. Did it as a kid. Nigga from the hundreds. Yeah, I come from under. I don't give a fuck. I just been the substance. They just tried to take from me. That's wasteful. I like energy. I tried to get myself together. Shit, fuck a penalty. And fuck the law. I've been the boss on weak niggas. I ain't posing for no pictures if my heart not really in it. I got music for the summer. Fuck clout. My ego dead inside a shell. You bitches dwell. I challenge thought just to excel. My mind been focused. I can't fail. Anointed like a Jesus story. Library boring. You rapping about the unimportant. Bitch, I am glowing. My flow come from rivers. Hips is open. Pussy, bring that power. You can't devour the pussy. I got all these flavors. I got all these haters. Niggas just mad cause they ain't us. I got all these flavors. Niggas just mad cause they ain't us. I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Yeah. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Yeah. I've been waiting patiently. The sun is out. I feel new energy. I'm at your mama house. She made some chicken wings. I bought the greens. I got weed to roll. I got a waist to go. My thoughts unlimited. The money. My pockets hit for all this. Thought I told you most. I told you then. Bring the guns to the war. They made you with desert sand. I came from water fluid to losers. I am a Jackie Chan. I'm author. The feather light is my spirit. Don't know why niggas pretending to be something they fearing. I got all these flavors. I got all these haters. Niggas just mad cause they ain't us. I I got all these slaves. Niggas just mad cause they ain't us. I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker. Say I got everything that you need in this motherfucker.
I've seen probably about 5 or 6 other Freddie Old Soul's videos. I wonder how many of those you helped out with too. That's what's so funny. That was Freddie Old Soul with Honey. The music video, if you'll catch that on YouTube, is directed by the lovely Bella Royale. This next one's actually going to be Brother Shai Tulani. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all are familiar with him. This is Shai Tulani, another one of her videos she helped with creative directing. Shai Tulani, and it's called Home.
Shai's wardrobe too. So all the wardrobe is provided by me and Shea Carnell Boutique. Shout out to Shea Carnell Boutique. Go shop with them. 73rd Street. They got some good pieces.
There it is. We're going to look this up. We're going to be coming back with a little bit of a discussion. If y'all still tuned in, we would love. As a matter of fact, I remember this video now. I did watch this.
No, don't you run from me. No, come to comfort me. I know you know they know that you love me too. I know they know for you I will act a fool. No, don't you run from me. No, come to comfort me. I know you know they know that you love me too. I know they know for you I will act a fool. Don't you know you so special you don't need to show. You got fire all up in your soul. You a fighter, oh Lord, you so strong. You got diamonds all up in that throne. Lord, don't you run from me, Lord. Come to comfort me. I know you know they know that you love me too. I know they know for you I will act a fool. Lord, don't you run from me, Lord. Come to comfort me. I know you know they know that you love me too. I know they know for you I will act a fool. Lord.
This is good. I like it.
Oh, no. I've got words for you. I've got love for you. Don't you run from me. Keep me company. I got work for you. I got love for you.
It's real though, like that's not going Avenue. Yeah. When the band be real low, he just go like this and something like that for a little bit. And then the dance be good. And if you go low for like 30 seconds. Oh! Yeah. He's like, I like this. This is usually, I hope you this have like a super pop. This is my part. This is my part right here. You see it right now.
I got love for you. I got love for you. Keep me company. Smile.
Chai's got a real
Shout out to-
genuine and marketable culture to him.
Yes, because it's real. It's a young African
That's who
king,
he is.
man. Straight from
That's who
king.
he is.
Young African king for real.
Yeah, so if y'all enjoyed that one, that was the brother Shai Tulani went home. All the wardrobes were styled by the wonderful Bella Royale.
And if you're in Chicago and you haven't listened to anything Shai Tulani, that's your first, go listen to it. I mean, the
Make sure
videos, there's a lot of great effort into what he does. And yeah, I mean,
We just getting started though. Listen, let me tell y'all, Sonic Soul.
having said that, this has been going on for a bit.
It's been going on for a bit. We just getting started. Sonic Soul gonna turn everything up a notch. And I tell y'all, my brother got an album. My brother got an album for y'all. And it's real. It's real. And the visuals that y'all about to get, they're gonna be sickening. Sickening. If I have anything to say about it, sickening. No, just playing. No, seriously. Shai Tulani is so amazing. Shout out to Tulani. Shout out to Get the Keys. Shout out to Cammy. Shout out to everybody who was dancing in the video. Tiara Sings. Like, I got to kind of slick plug everybody who was up in there. Shout out to Tiara Sings. Those late night dance practices, and she was still there. I know I made it hard on your girl, but she came through. Cammy. The whole team who was in the video. Like, literally. Squad. They did that. Oh, yeah. And Camera B Boutique for the wardrobe. Shout out to Cameron B Boutique who came through and supplied wardrobe for Get the Keys. And well, she let us, I'm a stylist. We pulled from her boutique for Get the Keys as well as Shai Tulani. So go to Cameron B Boutique and make sure y'all shop with her, buy her out. Okay, thank you.
And see, I think that's a good transition into like the next topic. So we're gonna begin in like the discussion part. If you were tuned in and you feel like you want to chime in, feel free to like just go ahead, uninterrupted, chime in, post something for what we're talking about. The first discussion topic I want to get into is Brother Nipsey Hussle. May he live forever.
He is living forever. So in the spirit of that.
And there it is.
Really quick, to start off, I know we're going to get into the deep stuff, but I just find it troubling. Do you think it was necessary, and I have both sides on this, to put out the actual video of him getting murdered?
So I didn't even know.
It's out there now.
I didn't know that.
They have it.
I did not know that had been released, and I'm 1,000% against that. I'm 1,000% against that. I don't know what I know that now that it's out there, the internet doesn't give. The internet has no mercy. The internet is unbiased. The internet is damn near entity now. I get it, but there needs to be respect. And in terms of this and of another guest we had on our show previously, who actually was murdered and his murder was filmed, R.I.P. Kako. May he live forever as well too, because he was a very respectable. I don't know about anything else aside from what he was doing, but as far as what he was in terms of business with us, he was respectful, more respectful than most other artists I ever interact with in a radio and or podcast. So in that same term, and I think he was a little similar. I'm not gonna say like that on those terms, but he did give back to his community, and he was an icon and a role model for a lot of people in his community, and he wasn't so involved in that level that most people would think that people that end up suffering at the hands of stuff like this. But for anyone's death to be
broadcasted,
and at that point it's like smut films. It becomes a smut film at that point.
This is the feel that I get behind it. I feel that when that happens, because obviously you're doing something illegal if you put that out, because that's an ongoing investigation to somebody who hasn't been convicted of the crime. Having said that, they brought it out really fast. I feel like when the media gets a hold of something like that, and that's the media, that's not a random person.
No.
That video. It's to make a point. And I think one of the big things, of course, is that everywhere in social media, in anything that's internet related right now that has to do with this, people are saying, it's deeper than just a street thing. And you know what I mean? This guy was doing things that made a lot of people upset. And I think when you bring it out, you put out his murder like that, people now just look at it as this was just a dispute between two people from the street.
And
Right.
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
And I would like both of y'all to speak just because I opened up the topic. Y'all both of y'all can speak freely before, because I'm still formulating my own response to what I just said. Because
This is the Dragon Ball Z portion where half of the episodes.
Goku is going to be
shit.
powering up for like half the episode's going to be a lot of screaming and yelling, and there's not going to be any attack. But once it happens, it's going to be fantastic.
I didn't know about that part. The screaming and the yelling. I don't know who they're screaming and yelling at. Not yellow.
That's the only way you can draw your energy in anime. But
I don't get it. I don't get it. But Nipsey, okay. I feel like, for one, a legend is gone, which we all know. Because Nipsey was known in the community, and I can say personally, being a person who is out here actually doing the work and following a lot of leaders who are doing the work, Nipsey was closely connected to a lot of those leaders, and he had his hands in a lot of pots. One in particular being the Learn and Unlearn Academy that was being built in Florida. A lot of people don't know about. Shout out to Derek Grace too and Ajna Sarah. Telling you I love them to death. But they have a very militant way of living. They believe in being heavily protected. We're talking crystals, we're talking pistols, we're talking about heavy in the education and homeschooling and teaching our children. And Nipsey had his hands in those pots as well. That was one of his mentors, his mentees, his proteges. And that school being built is, of course, the thread along. Everything he was doing with the Dr. Sebi case, I feel like I'm from Mississippi. It's Sebi, but see, when I say Sebi, it sounds funny, so I got Sebi.
It sounds a little heavy. It sounds nice, though. You might think it sounds silly. It's Sebi.
Yeah.
Sebi.
Yeah, Dr. Sebi, but
Sebi.
even everything that he was doing with uncovering his work there, it is crazy because when we look at it from the eyes of they took so many of our strong leaders. We have no choice but to see conspiracy at first when we first see it. Even if it was a black man that pulled the trigger, this black man has been known to be a snitch. He's been connected to too many authority figures. And this is how I feel. Because listen, let me tell you, especially when my community center opened up and all that I'm doing, I ain't got no time in the queen for no snitches. I ain't got no time for nobody that's connected to no colonizers. We don't need nothing from your table. We building our own table. It just ain't time for that. And the work that Nipsey was doing, I will understand him. We don't got no room for no ops on the camp. You can't be around me. You can't be around our people because you're coming against what we're trying to do. You're coming against the improvements that we're trying to make by having it's not because he's a snitch, though. That's not the problem. And I want most people to see that. It's the mentality of a snitch. It's the lifestyle and the ways of the snitch that you will turn around and do things like this that you just did. So instantly we want to think conspiracy when we see the situation. But I read a post, y'all, on social media, and it really made me rethink because this post said that being a person who's truly doing the work and being a follower of Nipsey is truly understanding that we got to have grace for this black man that killed him because there is another agenda against black men, and he fell into the agenda that came against black men and killed one of our biggest leaders. Of course, it's hard for us to forgive, but we have to understand that it spiraled from something. And that being the self-hate that was taught that now we got to have this crabs in a barrel mentality and can't nobody ever make it from the hood. It's like we really got to get to the depth of this. Like I'm not going to say forget that he killed somebody and that this person is dead, but let's look at the root of it now that we're talking about it. How do we get rid of the crab in the bucket mentality amongst our people so that we can't, when things like this happen next time, we know where it came from. We know the source. We can sit down and
everybody know.
Pinpoint. We know.
Period.
But I feel like they did.
I feel like we did.
I feel like they did. I feel like they knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like you said, it's a movement that was going around the country, that was bouncing around, where, you know what I mean? I mean, you see it a little more, I think, just subliminally, like with the Killer Mike show, how he made the Crip Cola and all this other stuff.
If y'all not saw that, go watch Killer Mike show on Netflix and watch Around the Way on Hulu.
People might think that's a fake platform, but that's something that's been worked on that you can document online, where these artists from the West Side of the U.S. started like saying we can make money regardless. We can put this down to the side, and we can do something else. You know what I mean? Because it ain't even about this. It's like we're doing this to get up, but everybody else should be getting their way out of there too. And we ain't the enemy anymore. Anybody that's trying to stop us from making money is the enemy.
It's the enemy.
And that's always been the case, but people are starting to get the veils off. You know what I mean? Because gangs were hijacked. That's the thing. Gangs were a way of just protecting the neighborhood from the government, the police. At the end of the day, it trickled down from the federal level all the way down to, you know, it's okay for cops to treat people like that, keep them down.
We got to police our own communities. And when they took away the true definition of gangs, and let me say this, shout out to New Era Chicago, because those men, those sisters, those brothers, they put in work. I want to say this, I love Black people, and I love being Black. Shout out to New Era, because they really police the communities. And that's the core of what it is they do, because, of course, we can't, like you were saying, gangs, when they stopped being against each other and said, we're going to protect together and move together, they became a force. But, of course, we go back to Black Panther. When the Black Panthers was moving together, that was a force. Anytime you
but they did the same thing. The gangs were existing.
Yeah.
The gangs were existing.
And
but they said,
take another route.
Put that down. We're going to educate you.
Yeah.
We're not going to send you out.
Yes.
We're going to keep you in until you're smart enough, strong enough to go out there and represent what we want you to represent.
And anytime you do that, and you
Chicago likes that though in gangs. I mean, more than ever, that epidemic we went through, where all the gang leaders were incarcerated at the same time. That was an epidemic. That was a tragedy, a crisis that happened to our city. Because not only do we already grow up now with great examples, but the actual structure that there was in the street was completely taken away, and then kids were getting to cause savages and all these other things, but they had no direction. And this was something that was done by the FBI. This wasn't done by our Chicago police. This wasn't done by those sheriffs. This was done by the FBI that decided to take down in Mexican communities, in Latino, in Black communities, all at the same time. And they're like, how are these homicides so high? What are you talking about? The people used to say, you can't do that. That's not going to ride. We're taking out the picture. Kids started waking up with a different frequency, with a different type of music that said, I want to wake up and catch a body. That never happened in music. Yeah. Music never was, I want to wake up. Music was, this is the reality of my day, that I got to carry a weapon, that I got to feel like this, I'm a part of the system. But it never got up to the level where I want to get up today and prove that I can be more masculine by taking more people down. Let alone, it don't matter who those people are. It's people that stopping my money.
It all happened at the same time too.
Yeah.
And
it did.
It introduced new drugs all in the same way. That's when what's the double cup started getting real popular.
Yeah, they took all the gang leaders, they dropped crates of guns or trucks of guns and areas.
But the guns wasn't a big effect in Chicago.
But there's a combination.
It's like the drug. No, what I'm saying is that Chicago has more guns than even more dumping of guns can do right now. Like, it's so easy to get a gun in Chicago. People don't need to lie about that. Like, if you know anything about that, it's very simple to get a gun in Chicago.
And when this is done, I need them to tell me how. Heavily protected pistols, I'll be with it.
So I want to transition from the Nipsey Hussle thing into targeted Black leaders, because you actually brought that up earlier with.
Hold on, before you transition from the Nipsey Hussle.
I was going to say 3 more points.
Okay.
Go ahead, Terry.
So the 3 things I wanted to say is why I feel, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat this anymore. I'm actually getting kind of fed up with it now. It's actually just irritating me. So why I feel like Nipsey Hussle was targeted, for anybody who may be too ignorant to see some of the 3 reasons, like I'll bring up 3 of the top reasons I truly believe that. One of which was he united Bloods and Crips in Oakland, California. I think actually it was further than that. I think some people from Long Beach and from other places too. So it was like a far span of California, basically from like middle California
through the arch. But into the streets, because he was always Crip.
All the way into different states.
Yeah, across the country. It wasn't even just okay. So anyway, he unified Bloods and Crips and kind of brought them back to original standing when the Black Panthers were more involved with them as gangs. or policings of the police departments of the neighborhoods. So that was one of the reasons why I truly feel like he was targeted. Second, I truly believe he was targeted because researching and redeveloping and making a documentary for Dr. Sebi. Him making that documentary made him a target for multiple reasons. There's a lot of people who were involved with Dr. Sebi before he had passed under mysterious circumstances that passed as well. And he literally chose to, unearth this information, which this man is known for curing cancer, AIDS, and many other incurable diseases, quote unquote, by science. Target. People who have since tried to do Dr. Sebi's research since then in any way, shape, or form, or indigenous doctors have all also disappeared or died world over. So it's not just, That's why I feel like that. Thirdly, he made a song called Fuck Donald Trump with YG. One of them, I'm just going to say this, and I'm not trying to say like I agree with it. One of them was going to get targeted. Producer of the song was going to get targeted. Somebody was going to get targeted. Ain't no way that was going to fly. And because all three of those things happened together, it was a matter of time before either he did or someone else did. But I think he stood for something so great within what he was doing. Just as Miss Bella Royale is. She's such a savant of what she does through the arts and within business. It's impossible to destroy that idea. What Nipsey Hussle was as an idea, who he was as a black man within the community, is irreplaceable. But within all of us doing our own way within, within that same practice, following your passion, helping the community, being true to yourself and being aligned with your higher self and being righteous, it's unstoppable. It is. And it's happening right now. And that is the true fear. It's like they're still trying to remove leaders from our community when all of us are. I heard actually on your radio show earlier, that was a large point too. All of us are leaders. All of us have the possibility and ability to. You just need to follow what your path is. You told me as well. You just need to follow what your path is, and especially if it has a righteous element or like energy behind it, people will follow suit because it's truly what they want to do, even if they didn't see the outlet for it, because you might create that for them in their mind. And yeah, Brother Nipsey is, like you said, he is not going. Period. I'm not the biggest follower of his music. I heard a lot of his songs that really resonated with me because he talks about being a boss, owning your own stuff, buying and selling. And just as you were saying earlier, how we can blow artists up. That's a lot of what Wardens Midwest was founded on. Brother Octo Squid, when me and him first came together with this idea, we were like, we want to be the Wardens of the Midwest. What does that idea stand for? And he is a Mexican American and I'm a Black American. We're like, so many elements of what we were coming together was like us working together to
white Mexican American.
White Mexican American. He looks very, very white. But
because there's Mexican American, which is American with two Mexican parents.
He has two Mexican parents. I think it's like his grandmother's white or something like that.
It don't matter. He's Octo Squid.
There you go, Octo Squid. So we came together with that idea, but it's something that's what our passion is: music, entertainment, and like getting people empowered by what they know through knowledge within business within those realms. Now your passion may be something else. It may be law. It may be education. It may be so many different other realms. But use those, revolutionize them. They give you some curriculum to teach somebody. You take that curriculum and say, okay, I'll teach this. I'm going to insert this here and that there, and this is going to be one of the projects. And I'm going to see what conclusions they come to. Whatever conclusions they come to, they come to.
But don't you almost come to a conclusion that they're not going to let us get that big? That
they ain't got no choice.
Ain't got no choice.
When people willing to die about this mission out here, if everybody get willing to do the work, everybody be willing to die about it, what y'all gonna do? We ain't not.
No, I understand. I completely understand. I understand that people don't realize this is just like Warriors, the movie, where it's like we outnumber the cops 601. Let's be real. Like in reality, we can't. But devil's making moves. You know what I'm saying? People don't realize that there's authority. There's bills passed where Russia has the right that in times of basically disorder, they can come into these grounds and police.
So can England, so can China, because they own.
No. Russia was the thing that they signed about 10 years ago, and a little further back than that. But that's the real stuff that doesn't get passed. You know what I mean? So they got backup plans too. And that's what I'm saying is that our leaders are strong, are righteous, motivated, but they're catching them all. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not discouraging anybody. I'm just saying I agree.
This off air because I don't want
No, I agree. I agree that we all got to do it at the same time, but we really have to find the formula.
There is, and I think a lot of us are already doing it. Like I said, we're not discussing it anymore because there's certain things that don't need to profit off of because it's going to change regardless. This is something that's happening. The vibrational frequency is being raised because we're heading in that direction, and there's nothing anything can do to stop that.
They created a lot of Nipseys when they killed them. When they took Nipsey, they created 100 more.
Probably more.
100,000 more, militant. Because now we woke. I think it's just like we starting to see like
what is it, 180,000? Like in the Bible?
Yep.
Look, we starting to see, and I think what has happened is that we see history playing in front of our eyes, and everybody's looking like, wait a minute.
It kind of feels like it.
It feels like Biggie and Tupac. It feels like, well, not even them because we know they was beefing, so it don't even feel like that. It feel like Martin Luther King, them. It feel like Malcolm X. It feel like that simply because
it feels way better than Biggie or Tupac, and this is why. It's because he wasn't manipulated.
Yeah,
he died without somebody basically sabotaging him.
Yes,
they sabotaged by killing him.
Yeah,
whoever did it sabotaged it in the bigger entirety, but they could not kill his image.
They can't.
And what can the media say? Oh, he's a thug from the streets. So what? He grew up like a lot of us do. And he was teaching us how to do something else. So at the end of the day, go ahead and call him that. I'm glad he grew up like we did. Because then we got to look at somebody that grew up like we did. Even to tell us what success is or what, our limits are. You know what I mean? It's like you didn't face our challenges that we did. So at the end of the day, we just don't need police, that grew up in our neighborhoods, to police, like you said. We need way more than that. We need everybody to really hold up to what a righteous person being is supposed to be. Accountability for your own people. People used to do that all the time growing up, even when hip-hop, started. It was such an order in it. It came out of the streets. All that art and stuff, the way it was, organized, it came from, real street situations, people really working together. It was not one race. You know what I'm saying? It was all races mixed in because they were crammed together. You know what I'm saying? They didn't fight it. They embraced it. You're different. I'm different this way. Check me out. I'm going to check you out. You know what I'm saying? Do the best you can do. Yeah. You know what I mean? That competitiveness didn't exist in any type of other music.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And I think we led by example for such a long time. It was a battle, but people were not getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a dispute like we can't have now. Even an insult, knocking somebody, but at the end of the day, it was all up. It was just putting it out there. You know what I mean? And like that's the morality that, that came out of, and it got turned into money, which got turned into violence. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because with money comes mobs. You get what I'm saying? And that's what people suffered is that they took a big hit to the culture. And again, it's a simple thing like being like, oh yeah, this person's fake, I can't get behind them. People don't even do that anymore. Like they don't care if he's fake or not. It's what's going on right now. It's conformity. And I hope people do wake all the way up, but we gotta take waking up isn't just, caring about the community. It's fighting off all that other stuff that's already there and saying no to it.
Waking up is healing and within yourself too. When you say fighting off all the stuff that's there, yourself.
Yeah.
Waking up is fighting your demons every morning so that you can deal with other people's without being a demon.
And,
we got plenty of music that backs that exact same message.
I want to transition just a little bit. There's one more topic. I think you might know a little bit more about it than maybe you do too about Lori Lightfoot. And she's going to be the last topic we touch on about current topics because I know a little bit about who she is as far as like why she was chosen, but not too much. But I want to, before we leave this topic of Nipsey, I want to transition into how I felt like other Black leaders may have been targeted more recently, especially people who.
Really quick, I didn't touch one of the points that you were making too. Is that especially something that sounds so vulgar as fuck Trump? When you look at the video, There's Mexicans with blacks, with Chinese, all together. And these aren't people they picked up to be actors. That was a threat. That was the real threat. People don't get that. Is that, yeah, well, unifying communities, but everybody can relate. You know what I mean? It's not even unifying all the communities. It's like, fuck Trump. Yeah, everybody else thinks that here. We are the same. Like, that's all, you know what I'm saying? That's all it really is. It's like they make race an issue as far as rights and politics. They make specific race an issue. You know what I'm saying? It's not a coincidence that they're targeting Mexicans so damn hard. They're still targeting African Americans, right? But everybody's like, this is my fight and this is my fight. And the harder you go against each group, the more they split up into their own group because they isolate. Because when you're, you know what I'm saying? You got to defend yourself. Nobody understands you. You know what I'm saying? It's on both sides. You know what I'm saying? It really is. But when you see something like that with a person that represents a lot of culture himself, and he makes it's a point that it's everybody in this together, then that's a real leader. You know what I'm saying? That's the person that's like, I'm pushing a message. I'm not just pushing for my people. Yeah, I'm a great advocate of my people, and I stand proud of who I am, but this is about us, like us. It's always been about us. This era is about them trying to make you think it's about you. And that's what I feel like technology is a representation of. You. Like you want the latest thing because you have to be on top of it. It's not
you
important.
portray this on social media because you have to look this way. Your page has to have this many followers and this many numbers. And people sit behind a computer and sell them. And it don't even really be that. It's an instant society of gratify me right now. If I don't get these likes, if I don't get these comments.
And I got an Instagram because he pushed me for a year. I don't give a fuck if you know what I'm doing or not.
Period. I don't post a lot on Instagram.
I have music I gotta push. Eventually, I gotta push this music out, so I understand. I don't care.
I mean, yeah, a lot of that has to do, you know,
with all this coffee,
a little bit. But the way in which Black leaders have been targeted, regardless, you know, for a number of different reasons. Like we were just talking about, literally. You were heated about Michael Jackson earlier. It was something that when it initially happened with Michael Jackson that I was a little heated about. But it's now a trend with anybody that is removing themselves from the system and they're at a high profile level and they're kind of leaving a blueprint to breadcrumbs of how to do it. It becomes targets. You talk about people like, and I won't talk about any of the allegations about Bill Cosby because even though I feel like that was form of an attack against him.
I feel like y'all can't bring up Bill Cosby in the mix with Michael Jackson because I feel like Bill Cosby was still here enough to fight that and to take up for himself, and it's just it got to be some truth to that still in that.
Okay, that's why I said I'm not gonna speak on anything about that at all. What I will say is the timing of what was going on, what he was doing around that. That's all.
Yes, because he was about to buy a station, a network.
He was about to buy NBC.
NBC, yeah.
Entirely. And if anyone can imagine if NBC was entirely black, I'm not gonna, speculate to that. I feel like the timing with that was something a little off with that. And that's what I'll say about a lot of these things. The timing just didn't make sense. I can't disregard anything he did because he should be held accountable just like anyone else in that space is held accountable.
You're right. The time.
But also within that same token, I wanted to bring up that point because someone's commenting, I have been surprised to see a lot of social media. Okay, a little bit about that. I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure I read that comment. But the timing of that, just in the same token, we think of someone like him being attacked for what he did, which he should. I mean, not attacked, but being held accountable for what he did, and he should. You have, on the same token, there's like counterparts on people like that are more Eurocentric that don't get held the same, accountability. You can bring up Kavanaugh, who was like an example of what you said, like something similar to,
R. Kelly.
Yeah.
So R. Kelly, everybody's gonna think it's hilarious and fucked up that R. Kelly, he's lying, he's crying, everybody thinks it's funny. But Kavanaugh's in office right now, after he threw a
Supreme
damn
Court justice.
and he wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing this to an interviewer. He was doing this to Congress.
Supreme Court.
He
justice.
was yelling at Congress the same way R. Kelly was yelling at that damn reporter.
Supreme Court justice now. And that's what I want that to still be like an area for people to understand how the judicial system works. When we are still in a space where we're guilty till proven innocent, but it also is in terms of not only that.
But entertainment's been that. You don't think so?
But destroy. I mean, no, entertainment's always been that way, especially in terms of like
especially now with the rappers that are coming out. All of them are getting put in jail for petty reasons. I feel like that's where it starts. They're institutionalizing them. They're holding things against them so they can slam them the minute that they're ready to. I feel like that's what happened to XXXTentacion. I feel like that's the concept that Kodak Black's under. I feel like anybody that's getting right now big is getting controlled by the system, by the court system,
21 Savage,
the actual court system.
With the literacy program. Because all this time,
the timing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's never what the cause is. It's like, okay, because, and we can, like I said, counterparts. There's probably somebody else you can say that was like, just like 21 Savage, that probably was like some white British dude from the UK. That maybe
Let me tell you something about this, about this immigration.
Shoot, what was that? Bieber. Bieber should have got deported on so many occasions that you could have like kicked somebody else out of the country for being disrespectful or disrespecting our customs, and it wasn't helping.
All right, man, but okay, I understand that. Okay.
So
let's not sugarcoat it because we can't sugarcoat shit either. He should have been under ICE radar a long time ago.
Yes.
The actual arrest that he's been arrested for, there's ICE agents. I know this from working as a paralegal in immigration for so many years. The ICE agents come at least once, twice a week to the police stations to check on the people that are arrested. Mm-hmm. He's caused so many blessings to have not been deported a long time ago. Because his visa did expire, but the crimes that he committed make you a threat to the public, make you ineligible to be here, unless the conditions in your country are so bad that it's a risk of you basically dying or some other extreme hardship. Extreme hardship. So, yeah, it's a grip that they have on people. You know what I mean? They got leverage. Everybody's got some dirt on them. You think they can't find that? Boy, I'm not gonna put my shit out, but they got me when they want to.
That comment, I'm sorry to cut you off. That comment, I like where he came from, and I want to address this for Ray, whoever this is. I feel like when it comes to the agenda with homosexuality and black men, there has to be a certain level, a certain caliber of black men who just like, hey, that's not our tea. We're not with it. We're not with it. It's not our tea. We ain't got to support it. We ain't got to denounce it, but we ain't rocking with it. And I feel like that's kind of a stance. Nipsey's a hood nigga. Let's be real. He from the tribe. He from the gutter. And when you from the gutter, some stuff you just don't promote and you don't move with. And the way in which he moved was also the way in which he was about to start moving. I would refer to was a little bit more militant and more pro-black and more. And when you are in that kind of lifestyle and with amongst those kind of people, certain things aren't respected or certain things aren't necessarily promoted. Not to say there's anything wrong with homosexuality, but I wouldn't see Nipsey as the type of person who would be moving that on his platform. That just wasn't his thing. And
it's not, and I want to say something else about that too. I feel like in the era of political correctness, we feel like everyone should be an advocate or ally for everything, and that's not the truth. I was just having a conversation with Adam Gottlieb, really good friend of mine. We're having a conversation. He has a bit of Native American blood in his, in his ancestry. So that's a lot of the place that he speaks from, which is nothing wrong with that at all, because Native Americans should have representation in this country and they should have someone advocating for them of this generation. In the same token, African Americans are allowed, and we don't need permission to, do the same damn thing. I feel like a lot of times when we do that, it's looked at by the mainstream culture as some sort of attack, or like, not only is it going against the norm, which it should be, because we are not the norm, we're treated as the other a lot, but it's like an attack. It's like if we all gathered at this coffee house and just had coffee, this whole place was full of black people. You know how many cops would come into this place before it was like even past noon? If people were here since the morning time just doing work and just working, drink coffee, you have no idea. So to see that, we like, seriously, like, I mean, but it's like, no, but you know it.
15 years ago, yeah, nah. I mean, people aren't in the same light that they used to be.
They may not. Okay, they may not.
You can't have a crowd of too many black people.
They may not
Now,
come inside, but they
inside,
will roll past several
If
times.
those black people was outside though, if black people get together, they commune. It happens at church, it happens at family reunions, it happens everywhere. When black people get together on their way out the door, somebody gonna get caught with a conversation right out there, even though they were supposed to go get the talking or whatnot. And when you draw that, a black person of any kind, when you get to be in a group of 5 or more, you're gonna get some action, whether you want it or not.
And it's happened for absolutely.
But I feel like that happens with any, if you get, I'm not going to say except whites, but if you get any group of people that are, well, group of people, it draws a crowd first, but yeah, minorities draw police. But that's people's fear. You know what I mean? People have fears of big groups of people that are not like them coming around their areas.
The fear of the
You
other.
get what I'm saying?
The fear of the other.
Now, what happens when you get 20 Mexicans in an all-black neighborhood marching or just walking? It's the same kind of attention, especially if you're not from there. I mean, it's an attention that's very unfortunate, but it's a reality that everybody deals with.
What community? Because if you got 20 Mexicans marching in the black community, it's like, damn, what they on? Wait a minute, because Mexicans get that when they get we don't, what we beefing about now? Come on, what you got to come to cousins for? Like,
They see it as a threat because you know Mexicans are violent as fuck.
Yeah.
No, they don't even have to be wartime. That's what you assume, though, right?
That's what you assume.
And again, it's the same exact mentality.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not defending a cop at all or anything like that or a community, but let's be real. You get defensive. You know what I'm saying? Just the same way. You know what I mean? I'll be real fucking honest with you. You go to a little village and you got 20 black people walking around. It's not a white community at all. They're getting jumped. You know what I mean? Let's be real. It's a real thing. And again, we can't hold that accountability. We got to look at the situations for what they were.
And
the situation is 20 people marched into here, so there was a reaction. I get that. But one person marches into here and everybody goes against that person, that's an injustice. That should be highlighted. There should be a consequence for that, for discriminating against somebody. Because at the end of the day, it's a discrimination.
But what's the difference between that 1 and that 20? Because see, like this, one time me and my friends felt like we wanted to go out and we wanted to have us a luxury dinner. We didn't just listen.
I've been in that setting many
New York,
times.
yeah, New York. We went into a steak restaurant. I ain't gonna tell you a lie. This steak was like $1.25. I know for a lot of people out there that be balling, that ain't nothing for a meal. A Bella
What kind of steak though? Because I'm moving in the culinary.
I don't know, but it didn't come with no sides, and that was the problem for me. It was just a piece of meat.
It was probably a porterhouse or a tomahawk steak.
Whatever it was, I would have killed the cow for the whole $125. Like where I come from, you can buy a cow for $125, a whole cow, and it could be on that. You talking about you can
Shit, I killed a goat at the age of 6, a slice of neck, and we ate that motherfucker in Mexico. That was the first time I went to Mexico.
I guess
they let me slice the goat.
To wrap up some of the political correctness I was talking about, I think if that is your identity or your place of, you know, where your culture or subculture comes from, you should be the advocate for that, and you should look to the people who are next to you as to be some form of ally. If you consider those people friends and they may be uneducated on that topic, you can inform them, and they won't be the spokesperson for all people Mexican that may speak on LGBTQIA+, but they'll be able to inform people around them. They say, oh, you know, that, forgive me, I'm going to say this, but it's going to be an example, like, oh, that fag, quote unquote. You say that slur, and then all of a sudden it's like, nah, man, you can't say that. I actually have friends who identify as gay, and they don't appreciate that term. You could actually just refer to them as gay, or more or less, more times, just their name. And I think those are the types of ways we can go about, like, you preserve your own culture. Like you were bringing up the example of Little Village and people marching in, or in terms, we can say Inglewood and 20 Mexicans marching in. Those are cultures, those are Mexican culture or Latino culture and Black culture. Those areas are allowed to preserve themselves and be themselves. Attacking should not be the first response, but it is okay for them to preserve their culture. We're still working out the logistics.
On the side note, don't trust the Black Jewish.
You said what?
That's Smollett.
I agree.
Drake.
I agree.
Jewish.
I agree.
The Jewish. And how many of the Jewish Black, name one Jewish Black entertainer that's in jail?
No, I'll wait.
Ain't no
name another one.
Go to jail. They too powerful.
I'll wait.
Ain't no Jew going to jail.
Wait,
Ain't no Jew going.
So yeah,
Smollett, you know that's Smollett. That's what he is. He's Jewish black.
Don't. In case
people didn't know that.
We're not anti-Semite.
We're not anti-Semite.
And I'm not taking that easy out for anybody that wants to say that when we start discussing these kind of topics.
And this word has been west. I say
exactly.
the dumbest. I'm not Charlemagne. I'll take the heat for that.
If stuff is statistically and historically proven true and you can't argue against it, it's fact. I don't care what you say. Some of this stuff is fact because name another culture, and this is one of my greatest arguments for Jewish culture, like how they're a protected race. Name another culture and or race, and I will wait that can have a city within a city. I'll wait. A city within a city, and I said exactly what I said. In Columbus, Ohio, and I think several other capitals.
I was about to say Vatican.
Vatican's a perfect example of that because that is a city within a country, right? From a city within a city within a country.
Yeah,
so this is a city within a country. This is Columbus, Ohio. They have Bexley, Ohio, which is inside Columbus, Ohio. That doesn't make any sense. They have their own police force, their own mayor, their own government.
Time out, real quick. The Catholic Pope is a Jesuit. He's not fucking Catholic. Does anybody really understand that Jesuit link? The Jesuit he's a Jesuit from South America. The Jesuits started existing after the Nazis got shipped away because they got pardoned because they were blanketed by the Catholic Church. They were permitted to go to South America. These wars in South America happened when all these people damn near went through a genocide. The Pope was one of the people that would get people executed. They put a story out on it where 3 people said this happened. Then they countered it, spinned it, where they had 3 priests that said, oh no, he helped us get out of there. But his position was putting people away. But the Jesuits, again, are a big group of people that aren't monitored by the government for some crazy reason, that are influenced everywhere, including with Donald Trump. He was raised by Jesuits. He was educated by Jesuits. And people don't want to believe that, but you can look that up. Like, what are these Jesuits doing in Catholic organizations at all? And Catholic is the most vicious, territorial, you know what I mean?
Throughout history.
The Spaniards, what they did on Isle of South America, point blank. Like,
to the Middle East. There's a lot of information a lot of us will forever be ignorant to because the information has been burned out of history.
No, it's not. It's in the damn Vatican.
Sorry. Burned and then hidden. All copies burned, originals hidden.
The Vatican's got a mile-foot long of just books that we can't look at.
Is it 2 mile radius or is it just 2 miles straight? Do you know? Does anybody know?
It's too fucking long.
All right, anyway. So the last topic I wanted to speak on was Lori Lightfoot. And before we get to that, I'm going to kind of review this. But as I talk about Lori Lightfoot, all I know about Lori Lightfoot is that she was elected. Let's say, because someone reads some of those comments.
No, listen, leave Ray alone. Ray, you have a personal problem. Bella Roy wants to address you, okay? Listen, call me and we could talk about what you need to talk about in a personal session, because I think that you can't be into it with somebody in the extraterrestrial realm about their views on homosexuality. He gone. It ain't nothing we can do now. Whether he was rocking with it or not, he gone. So just let it go, right? We gotta let it go. Like, you know,
okay.
We can't try
I didn't know that. So I mean,
I
can't speak for that man and his stances on that. I mean, like we were just saying earlier, though, there's a lot of leaders who we would not agree with all of their lifestyle choices once they're dead and gone. And that's not for me to say that I 100% agree with who he was or what his views were. But what I can say is, for what he stood for in our African American community, I 100% stand behind it. For if there is a piece of him,
the grind. Anybody appreciate the grind? Appreciate Nipsey? Yeah. like for real. Who else was selling a mixtape for $100 and getting? Well, some people were getting deals. Some people were getting deals. Yeah, the biggest one was the 200. But who else was doing that? And what kind of support does that show you? That support. That's not just music. That's support. That means that people valued him that much in the community to donate that. They donated that. They really did, but it was out of the goodwill of it. You know what I mean? Out of the righteousness of the way his path he took.
I don't want to get too deep into this. I do understand why Nipsey may have been on that side, though, and I think I should speak a little bit. I don't want to speak for him, like I said, but as like a black man in African American culture, and I see a lot of what is happening as far as, and we can argue this in the realm of where political correctness is coming in, and people want to be more gender fluid, but as far as what like the black male in American society has never had a true like stable space to truly be existent in their masculinity without being villainized or criminalized for it.
So they want to make every black entertainer in movies
feminized. So when you see that, and there's a bunch of courses on this in college and like universities throughout America, and they're not even just in African American settings. But for him to be involved with a lot of leaders who understand those stances, for us to never have had that stance ever, for him to advocate against what we see as happening as an agenda within our community. Some people say, once again, that this is conspiracy, but once again, history and statistics can't be disproven. So that may be why he felt that way. And I can't say that is, but that may be part of the reason, and I understand it.
Okay, we'll give Jaden Smith his platform.
But yeah, so
one more thing. Just right.
I want to get to Lori afterwards.
Listen, it's okay for a black man to say I'm against homosexuality or I don't stand for homosexuality, and that's not the platform I'm pushing. We need more black men with black women. We need more any color minority with their spouses so that we can procreate and we can with spouses of the gender that is opposite to them so that we can create more babies so that we can do what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And I think personally, and this is just Bella Royal, I think that is the dopest, one of the dopest things that you could want is to procreate. Also to let people love who they love and how they love. Don't be against nobody. But it's okay if Nipsey was that man. I appreciate the fact that Nipsey was that man who's like, listen, I'm not really with that shit. That's not really my shit. I ain't really supporting that.
And I've had this argument with somebody in this, when I was hosting, and a lot of people took it the wrong way. My thing is that you should not teach kids sexuality point blank. That shouldn't be brought up to a kid. That's not something that they need to be talking about. There's no reason to let them know that it's okay that early, because I don't care what people say. Oh, it's not all about sex. No, it's not. But when you think about it as a kid, it is about that. It is that extreme. You know what I mean? And if not, that's what's going on in the subconscious. And why are they doing that to kids? Kids, again, this is a private issue. And I have a problem as a parent because students are getting 5-6-year-olds are getting this education on things that they haven't even got educated as far as the heterosexual example, but they understand now the homosexual aspect of it because it's an agenda that's being pushed because they're purposely doing it. They are purposely putting dresses on black males first and then pushing it towards one because it's with entertainment. That's how you push your product through the African American community.
It's been going on for since
slavery. They've done it in every high aspect of art. Acting is the biggest example. You always got to be a homosexual or a female if you're black, if you're of color. Not just black, Mexicans the same thing. You'll have
especially the Mexican, the Mexican man. He always play that role when you
exactly. If not, then he plays that machismo fucked up. You don't think that has a very high, deep impact on you know what I mean? Just the stereotype. I grew up in a not so great environment as far as like, my parents had struggles. But I had a great example of a father as a man. He did get locked up. He did do things that I understand because I grew up and I see what it was. But I had a great example of just somebody that was there and did have these certain bias because his main interest was the structure of his family. Because he didn't have all the advantages, because he didn't have his father there the whole time. He built. And I don't think there's anything wrong with building a foundation of what you take pride in. There is a problem with you antagonizing things and passing that on because you get these angers and hatred through the experiences that you go through. That stress should not be passed down. It's the same thing with the homosexuality. It should not get passed down. You got to let people live their lives. It is a better platform now for the LGBTQA+ community because all these people went through it, but we're not fighting the same wars. It's not a thing where somebody should have a preference or an advantage or can use that at such a Smollett as a weapon against people. It just shouldn't be that, because at the end of the day, people shouldn't care about the next person's relationship. The only time I can see that being an issue is if you're in a closet and you're not real about something, such as like the serial killer in Florida. You know what I mean? People find out, well, he had lovers and stuff in that damn place, and you know what I mean? They try to make it a terrorist thing. That was D. Ray Davis made the best one about that. He's like, I don't want to be into no gay shit. He's like, I can't see myself, you know what I'm saying, running into yeah, well, I can use that D. Ray dick ass. You know what I'm saying? He's like, John! Oh man, this shit because you got turned down. I'm sorry. Y'all ain't seen that. I'm sorry.
No, but like I said, this is not me saying any attack against anyone. Once again, Warren's Midwest.
We love LGBT.
It's not Warren's Midwest is not anti-Semite. We are not anti-LGBTQIA. What we are is we do understand when agendas are being pushed. We understand how the power of the media is used as a tool in a machine. We do understand that there needs to be appropriation and respect for all cultures and subcultures, but that does not mean that all of us have to 100% be behind everything for everything to succeed. I think that subcultures should support and embrace themselves, and that's how it works.
How about this? You support the things that you agree with, and don't hate on the things that you disagree with. Because most of the time, the stuff that you disagree with, you haven't put enough time into the thing for it to matter to you or anybody else. All you're doing now is just creating conflict. How about just support what you support without having hatred for anything else?
Okay, and on that note, I'm so glad you brought that up. Shout out Ray, he's been really engaging right now. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. In terms of Lori Lightfoot.
No support for Lori. There's no support.
Right, there we go.
Because I cannot resonate. The main thing, let me tell you the main thing for me, because you be my movement. The main thing for me, I feel like Amara should have won, but that's neither here nor there. There's a lot of reasons why other people feel against that. She wasn't ready, this and that, financial reasons.
Well, why do you feel Amara should have won? I'll ask you that, because before we even get to some of that, I'll come back, I'll rebuttal with everything, not rebuttal, but I'll give everyone a kind of overview of what I think some of the three basic reasons why Lori kind of got into office.
Okay. I think Amara should have won because she's closer to change, to progressive change. The change, let's be real, the change that needs to happen has to come from the younger generation. Y'all, like, we are the future. We are the ancestors right here. You know what I'm saying? Because we actively in the age range where we doing stuff, and it's people, we in between, like J. Cole say, I'm in two generations. I'm big bro and little bro at the same time. So with us being in that pivotal age range, that's the same age range that Amara is in. She is big sister and little sister all at the same time, so she can relate to the youth. She can get the city moving. She can get the city going. Her change agent is progressive. The route that she's taking to get people to go back into their cultures, to understand themselves, to practice the things that are based on in their culture.
Is that in terms of like school leaders or police?
School leaders, police in general. Like I feel like a part of Amara's platform was self-mastery in a sense. And that was for everybody to get their own shit together so we can get our shit together and improve together effectively. And I feel like that's one of those things where it's dangerous if you want to do that. So hence why she didn't win, because that's a dangerous thing when you want to come and unify the city and especially use the younger people to do it with you.
Okay, but I don't mean to interrupt and even make it a negative thing because, you know what I mean? I was able to look into her and I agree with a lot of programs the way she's involved in the community. But let's be real, that's the community that didn't push that. Because she had people, she was highlighted. She did get the chance for people to really look into it, but the community didn't back it.
They didn't vote. And they never do.
And yeah, it goes back to a big problem. See, everybody makes the presidential run such a big thing, but that affects you only to a certain point. The mayor affects you directly.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to either say that she deserved it more than a lot of people, because we can't judge that yet, and she doesn't have the track record yet to be like, this is bullshit. So what I will say is we should probably stick more to why Lightfoot either should have or shouldn't have won, but by somebody else.
Okay.
But I appreciate you bringing her up because obviously she was.
She was
the closest candidate, and she came out of our community, and it's bitter. Like when Chewy lost.
Yeah.
I was bitter. I was bitter because I never seen so many people all around the city get behind a candidate that wasn't already backed by everybody. You know what I mean? As far as like big Congress and the people we don't trust. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put it any other way, but we don't. Anyway, I seen that, and then he still lost. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this right now. I didn't vote. I didn't vote. Since then, I have not voted or shown interest in wanting to vote for a mayor. And I honestly, not just that, it's not a sore loser type of thing in this case. Like I said, I've never in my life, and I've been to Chicago, and I've always volunteered wherever I could, politics. I've worked for a congressman, but I felt like there's no way that I seen so many young people vote that year. And I'm like, there's no way that many people were out here, and then it wasn't even as close as it should have been. Like, it was close, but, like, you know, he got a lot of heat. He actually, after that run, he woke up. Rahm Emanuel started fixing a lot of things that were real messed up because people were starting to point him out. He seen that he could be taken out. And that's why he didn't run, because he know this time he would be taken out. You know what I mean? But I'm glad for that, for the scare that it caused and the change that came out of it, because a lot of change came out of him being contested. You know what I mean? But I feel like a city this big, I don't think they leave it to us.
No.
Hell no.
It's a machine.
Hell no. Any New York, Florida, even Ohio at this point, because Ohio decides elections. So any cities within those realms that can decide or they influence the country, Chicago's a test market.
Dick Gregory, what was he saying?
Oh, yeah, I just posted that. Dick Gregory literally won the election against Richard Nixon.
No.
Like he won that because they messed up how the votes flowed into
it wasn't even he won. It was in the state.
Yeah.
He got it once in Pennsylvania. He got 9 million votes or something like that.
Which was enough to win.
Ridiculous big number.
Enough to win.
But what happened was he didn't get 9 million votes. The machines meant to cheat and give Nixon the 9 million votes.
They didn't know him.
But that showed the flaw.
What's his name? Al Roker? Al Roker reported him. That's how official that was. It was literally a mistake so big that like a national news anchorman like reported on this, and it still meant nothing. So like that was something.
And that's
like,
back when he had quadruple chin.
60s, right? This is like 60s, bro. This is like
you know what I'm talking about. That man got that whole shit sucked up on some day. They didn't date his lips. They dated his fucking chin.
Oh my God! And that's true. Though. I had to think about his
chin. So, for those who don't know, everybody tuning in. For what I researched on More Life, I didn't learn a lot about her either, just because, like you said about the politics. At this point, I've walked past so many politicians in Chicago. It seemed like I don't know. I work with him.
Rahm Emanuel got baby hands.
He is pretty small.
No, it's not that he's that small. He got some baby ass hands.
He's like a really anyway. I just feel like I can just like push him.
He got some damn princess hands. I don't care.
But Lori Lightfoot, for what I've understood, they put up like I think like Chicago Tribune put up a couple of things that were some of her biggest progressive points. Is what she, you know, what I mean, like why she may have been that candidate. It was she is openly gay. I think she has a wife.
A white wife, yes.
Okay.
She's married to a white woman.
Okay. So she is married to a white woman.
She sound like a cheater, Lightfoot. Just
right?
Coming back in the house like
that's what she gonna be doing all through our little system, all through our little government. Lightfoot, just like that, man. Just like that.
She's
like she should have a sneaker.
She's also she's the first black woman to be elected into office. Yes. To be elected into the mayoral office. And she's also the first woman to be elected into the mayoral office. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I told you.
So those are the three big, those are three big selling points. That's not selling points, but like three of the big like things. Like, okay, this is why they felt like she was progressive enough to be into this office to represent Chicago.
progressive because
That's what I
laying up with a woman at night. What's your soul like? What you trying to do for this city? You trying to turn old schools. Now this is my thing. This is my main thing
But
here with
Chicago
Lori,
is a
where
place
I
of
can't rock with her. It's because she wants to turn old schools that they just closed on the south side. First of all, me working with the youth and being involved with these babies and knowing the detriment that has happened because these schools have closed and they have to travel so far to get to other schools or go out of their district. And there's so much going on, whether it's kids dropping out of school because of the cost of transportation because their parents aren't actively in their life. So they don't have nobody that can help them get from this place to that place. Or I have to go through this neighborhood and I get bullied. So now I'm not going to school no more. And you want to turn these schools into police camps? Fuck 12. What you mean? We don't need no more, y'all. Like, police camps. That's what you want to bring into our neighborhoods and replace the school instead of giving these kids something else, giving them another resource, turning these schools into something that can better the community. You want us to have more police camps where you took from something that we needed. Now I can see if they were just sitting around when nobody using them, they was empty. We didn't need those. We needed this, and you close this so you can do this. Girl, sit down. And you pushing that agenda while your people are actively out here suffering. That's just what I can't get. You feel like more police will help. Mental health facilities will help.
Yeah, I get you. I'm gonna be real antagonistic and not. If you're, for the most part, for 95% of the time, if your reason for not making it to school is because you can't afford to make it to school in Chicago of all places, that's your parents let down. And I don't mean that in no way, because that should be the very basic thing. Just like you need to eat in the morning, and we're not in times of that deep of poverty. And I'm saying for somebody that came from pretty deep poverty, you know what I mean? So I don't want to use that either just as an excuse because I'm gonna be real because I went through the school system and I know that a lot of people didn't finish because the streets detoured them, because the glamour of gang life, of being on the street, being somebody in the street, took them out of it. Way more than not being able to pay for something did. And I really feel that, and we're not going to take the responsibility from the way, you know what I'm saying, that we grew up. And I feel sorry for anybody that didn't. I lost my parents early and everything, but I did have a foundation. I was very fortunate for that they did prioritize the things that parents are supposed to prioritize. And then, you know what I mean? Like I said, I do feel for those people, but I know that more of those, you know what I'm saying? We fall into a lot of traps. And we're in a system that's meant for that, but we can't just take the blame off of that. The biggest thing that I'm against was all the charter schools. That was a big fucking scam because there was an alternative to high school, and it was alternative schools, and it wasn't funded by everybody because it was not acceptable to just drop out of school and continue your education and it be credited because there was a standard to what school was. I got put into alternative school after fighting and slaying and getting caught in school. You know what I mean? But that was a really quick transition. So if you're going to stay in school, go here and go there. It was privately funded because people do care about these second chances. But again, it was not your right away second option. You don't like the school, then go to this second school. That's resources taken away from the main thing that should be one center. We have fallen back on education as a country behind damn near every country.
Every first world and every developing country.
But again, that's a responsibility that we do have to take upon because, like I said, in a city like Chicago, I understand poverty, but the school still has a system. If you're a bright person, you can make it. Let's not take away from that because it's the truth. Now, I never take away from the institutions, and it's like I said, I do go against them shutting down any schools because it's a waste of money building a new school. You're going to need to build a new school. Charter put a big dent in our school system. How beautiful are those school structures in charter schools?
Yeah, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Well, I feel like I agree with you on certain parts. Well, I agree with you with what you're saying, except for the fact that I just still feel like these kids it's it is a big demographic of children who really cannot get to school. And I be vouched for that through the text messages that I get. If I could tell, listen, baby, I can't Uber you no more. I can't do it. I can't help you get there. So there is a big poverty isn't the same, but it's so many things that play into order. Like you said, if you're a bright kid, you'll be okay. I know youth that's out here. Let me tell you, I got youth that's in my youth group, and I'm not gonna say this in my youth group. I got youth that I work with that you would think should have a certain level of knowledge at a certain age, because that's what we possess and pass down, but they don't. And then you go to the root of it and you figure out why they don't have it. It's because their parents don't have it. And it travels all the way back up the pipeline. Who don't have what and who don't get what and who don't get what. So it's not if you're not a bright child, then what do? If you are a child and you can't afford, your parents can't afford for you to get to school, and what they feeding you in school ain't nothing that's gonna get you full, ain't nothing that's gonna keep you going. I feel like the streets are appealing. They become even more appealing when you're hungry and you can't focus. They become even more appealing when your parents don't care if you can get to school or not, and you don't have no transportation. They become even more appealing when you don't have nobody pushing you to go to school, and it's the counter spectrum. You know how many homeless right now, how many homeless high schoolers it is right now, and them kids still go to school every single day, but they homeless and they ain't got nowhere to go, and they go just for the stability. So they're not there focusing on what they're trying to do. They're there because they need somewhere to be. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, a good percentage of them are, but think about like trauma, even adults. These kids are having traumatic situations. Some can handle the trauma good and some can't. So when you take away these schools and they have to travel far distances to get to another school, some can handle that and some can't. Because they already battling something over here at home. They already going through this. You just deterred them from wanting to do that or wanting to go to school or even be active in the process of it. So I agree with you, but I just had to come in and say that.
I want to piggyback.
And I appreciate that, because obviously that's what that's an experience that you pass. And again, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I personally had people close to me that were in that situation. But what I'm saying is that this is a capitalist society point blank.
It is.
It is set up so that this stuff is appealing to us. And that appeal a lot of the time is what makes people drop out, is what I'm saying. The dropout rate, as high as it is, it's a lot of people that really chose. How many people you know that just do it? You know what I'm saying?
I don't feel like those people, like some people chose, but some people felt they had no choice.
And I respect those people, and I come from that environment for real. I really do, and I do respect those people. Like I completely do. But coming from that environment, I'm not being a snob or nothing. I'm not trying to like, you know what I'm saying, like say I'm better than anybody. That's not my intention at all. I'm saying is that I've seen a lot of fake people, and that's what it comes down to. Fake people that had every advantage that fall into that. And, you know, that's a big percentage of the people that are really dropping out. Come on, it sucks to see that. I mean, those people ruin it for a lot of people too. Those statistics of all those people that are failing, a lot of them are privileged people that just chose not to give a fuck, and it make everybody look kind of bad. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't say statistically it's a lot of privileged people. I don't know about what I would say is, especially in terms of minorities, and I was in education. I took education courses up to the 4,000 level, which is the majors level courses. And a lot of what we researched in different areas of the nation, like the South, which is probably the worst for reading, writing, and math. But definitely, like you can go to a place like New York, Cali, and even within the Midwest, and a lot of it was like for African Americans, and we were talking about disassembling, so they were already under attack. They were under attack from a family unit space, not even from an educational unit space. So once we have not oppression, but attacks from that level, and you still try to keep building a family off top of that, and there is generational oppression or generational trauma, you're still trying to build past that. These things persist, and then you don't have resources in the community. You try to, you where you used to go to school was like 4 or 5 blocks away, and now it's miles away. Just for you to get any level of education. And now it does put more and more pressure on you because you haven't even healed from generations of oppression, trauma, and now you're just trying to navigate the school, which was not even blocks away, but now it's miles away. And I do, you know, if that's truly what Lori is going to implement, then I can't stand behind her because I completely was against Rahm Emanuel, for shutting down 50 schools within Chicago. So how could I support anybody who takes those 50 schools that were shut down and turns them into police camps or anything other than a resource for those communities? Period. And that's why there is a bit of personal accountability, and I think that's what a bit of what our generation is doing now. Our personal accountability is once we educate ourselves on what the new, the scope of what American society is and how we can actually change that as coming together as a community. That's when it's your responsibility. That is when you were held responsible. Sometimes for us, it's when we become adults, or in our mid-20s, and we're like, okay, I get where I fit into this now. I get where I can be most effective, and now I'm starting this work. We don't get to start off at our early age and say, oh, my community needs a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor right now. We're just getting kids to that space to start telling them these things, to say like, oh, basketball and entertainment, no offense, because anybody's good at sports, keep doing your thing, and I'm in entertainment, so I'm going to keep doing my thing. But giving those other, industries to kids to say, this cannot just be for you and your benefit. This is for your community. You being in pharmaceuticals can change the industry. You want to be a holistic healer with pharmaceuticals. That's different. You can give back to the African American community with that. And we can distill that within people. But we're just getting there. We don't even have resources within these.
But you see the beauty of this? We went from talking something like what's its problems to solutions, which is,
it must be that everybody
something more than that, something to get behind. Because like you said, okay, so the issue, we've always known that the education system has its flaws, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't change that it's had it. We could try and implement new things to it, but we can definitely point out things like these schools being used in the wrong way. Boom, that's a movement in its own. Get a bunch of people behind it. That's the beauty of speaking like this, because I completely agree with what you're saying. And again, we might not agree on every single issue as far as what reasons are, but we do see a big problem.
Yes.
Boom, a big example. This is what we don't focus on. Sometimes we will get stuck on being right or wrong, and that's not important. It's not important because we're not that important.
Yeah.
I
like the way you said
we're acting.
No. It's we can do important things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And the important thing would be to find a way to get these buildings to be used in a way that benefits everyone after they've been affected by it initially.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to make it a resource, and not to make it a thing where the government sells it for $1 to somebody as a favor.
Jesus Christ, here we go. Well, let that happen.
Also, we got it on our own stuff.
Most definitely.
And you know what? I feel like a big part of the solution, and like we can, because we can sit down and we can talk about all of it all day long, and then it comes to being active in the solution. At the end of the day, Bella Royal believes that I am a part of the solution. I'm a big piece to the puzzle. And so what do I do to help the community? How do I, how do I help that? That's why I'm opening a community center, because I felt like I have to the spaces they've taken away, we have to recreate.
Period.
And those spaces need to be spaces where we're comfortable in, spaces where you can let your guard down, spaces where you can speak on your race, spaces where you can speak on what's oppressing you, spaces where you can grow and you can heal, and you don't have to feel like filter. Like schools don't allow our kids those spaces. You can't go and sit in the office and try to talk to the person about why, okay, let's say, look at counselors. You can't say, well, I don't think this white lady counselor not getting me, and y'all keep sending me back to this counselor, but I can't tell you, she not understanding the struggles that I went through, you know what I'm saying? So you got those kids that's at school that's like, this white lady don't get me in the office, and you steady sending me back to her. And now because she don't get me, you gonna send me to a higher source of getting some medical help because this lady don't get me. She ain't black, she ain't been in the hood. Now one day she don't understand these struggles. Now you just being black, you ain't a minority, so you ain't went through what we went through to understand these things. So it's important for us to create these spaces in these places. And as artists and with the music that y'all create, it's important for y'all to be intentional about what you say, how you say it, what you give to the next generation. What comes out of you, somebody else is going to take in. So you want it to be bitter, you want it to be sweet. You want them to gain something or to lose something, what comes from you. So we got to birth solutions.
I'll say that. I think, to wrap up, did you have anything you want to add? Or you did?
That was beautiful.
I think so too. To wrap up, I do think we should challenge ourselves to bring in solutions. A lot of what, I guess my stance in this, when we used to have three, hosts, co-hosts, there was a dynamic for both sides, and I was more of the middle person. I guess with what I'm trying to say is, do make sure you present those solutions. Challenge yourself. Like, a lot of us, because we do identify with certain things, we become extremists. You don't want to be an extremist and get your point missed. Some people want the information to be had because it's right and don't understand that sometimes there's a better way to communicate for compromising and for working together, even if that doesn't mean actively, continuously working together, just preserving your own culture and community or getting that information to another space. Example, I just want to give one example of when this happened before. One time I was hopping the fence with previous co-host OctoSquid. We were like taking a shortcut to like a grocery store in the suburbs. I happened to be hopping it back over, coming back, and some, white man started yelling at me and him, "Hey, you kids, get your asses off that damn fence." And I looked and I said, "What kids is he talking to? I'm 26. So I hopped down off the fence. And OctoSquid was like, "Terry, no, it's cool, man, don't worry." I was like, "Nah, fuck that." He just called me a kid and he said, "You damn kids."
I can support this.
What do you mean?
You shouldn't have jumped over the damn fence.
Thank you.
No, I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry, that's why I was
doing and act like that's a valid point. That ain't your damn fence.
I didn't even finish the rest of it.
Okay, yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
You can't say nothing back to that man because he called you a kid.
It's not his fence. It's not his fence, and it was a public fence, and there were no police officers, and there was much more of a racial context. So as I went up and approached the man as he said this, and I said, "Hey, we were just hopping the fence to get over because this is a grocery store thing."
You're
I'm not a kid. I understand, but there was, okay, OctoSquid, if you see this, you can chime in more because you know that there was more racial context because that's exactly the
yeah, okay.
Yeah, little boy, stop hopping the fence.
I agree with you. I agree. I know where you're going with this, Terry. It ain't nothing else. I know, I get what you're saying, and yeah, the guy was racist. I believe it.
I'm not even
I'm not
even gonna say that he was racist. I'm just gonna say that he was ignorant.
As your mama,
okay,
I'm gonna prop you for jumping the damn. If something was to happen to you as a result of that, how can I?
Nah, it's not that serious. It's why did you address it?
Yeah.
Why did you address it? Okay, you did jump the fence, whatever. He wasn't going after you. Why did you take the energy to be like, "I'm not a boy"? You got to realize that he's nothing to you.
And you'd rather be a boy in a situation where you're doing something that necessarily wasn't the right thing.
Now, if a man's in your space and says, "Boy," I get it. This is a man yelling from around
his way. And this wasn't here, this was in the suburbs. He literally went out of his way to like come and attack and like be in the space. Like, it was already, the moment was already over. We were already done.
If you would have kept going, you would have never encountered him.
That's very true. But I felt that, what I'm saying is,
you said you turned around and went towards the guy.
Because I felt the energy in the situation and I knew the moment.
So you went to the energy that was against you.
No, I went to the energy that was ignorant and needed to be educated. That's how I saw it. And it worked. This is what I'm saying. You know what? I'll use another example.
Okay, please.
Okay. So, in one example, I basically went to the door of one man. I was campaigning for human rights campaign, and I knocked on the door. And this was to be, we're boycotting billions of dollar food subsidies that the government gives to big agricultural companies like Monsanto and Cargill. Boom. I'm at the door talking to this dude, and I tell him a little spiel, companies like Frito-Lay and blah, 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 whatever, they get their stuff from GMO products. They get this stuff, it's all fake food. They market it to kids, and kids are basically eating food with no substance at all in it. If we could just take that $1 billion and give it to local farmers or local farmers markets, it would make a complete difference for the community and have healthy food. Boom. Dude argued against me and was like, "Nah, man, that's not true. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Whatever, And instead of me being like, "You know what you're talking about," and being angry in that stance, when I could have, I feel like a lot of us in this political correct era do, I didn't do that. I said, "You know what, man? Let's go Google it." And I just walked away. And I left it to him. And he said, "I will." And he walked away. And before I even got two or more houses away from where his house was, this man came out of the house and ran up to me, gave me the donation, gave me 2 Gatorades, and said, "I had no idea that was going on. I'm going to tell everyone I know from now on," and walked away. And I think in that same that was a context.
But I think that's the beauty of it, T. And
in that context in that context of food, I think that was like, maybe an easier topic because it's something that we all already relate to. It's like food. Oh, my kids eat Frito-Lay. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, or whatever, like rich or poor. I give my kids Frito-Lay, give them Cheetos and Lay's and all that stuff. So that was an easier topic. But when it comes to these more topics that are closer to race, gender, people lose sight of that and they get a little angry. And it's like, for me, and this may not be the same for everyone. I've talked to people like this, and it's like, well, that's not my stance in having that type of debate. Mine, and I see like the overall, can't speak for everybody. Mine is, when you give them that information, are they internalizing it, and can they become an ally? Because I don't want to argue just for the sake of this is right, because we can say what's right and what's wrong. And there's facts that prove both, not both, but there is something to prove what is right and there's something to prove what is wrong. But if someone's not going to hear you out on that aspect, it doesn't matter. What you can say is, this is affecting us, or this is like, I don't know, I guess you can't say that, but find your way to discuss with this person, to navigate, to give them that information, to walk away with it. It's not about, I don't think it should be about right or wrong. It should be about transitioning someone to an ally, and they're either getting closer to that or they're getting further away from it.
I agree. Okay.
Men don't got to speak for women. Straight people don't got to speak for gay people. And
I agree with you, Terry. I'm just trying to make one point, very valid point is that you did in that instance, you did the right thing, which is to walk away. You seen and you didn't take it personal. You went on to the next. And I feel that one of the things that I've seen is that the only thing that I've seen that you do that kind of takes me out of whack is that you take everything personal as yourself. Just to give an example, one of the first times you came around this neighborhood, you came out the car with me. We were going to my sister's house. It's an all-white neighborhood, basically. And he waves, but he waves like Marshall Mathers and hi, my name is. He's like, and then a person just looks at him. He's like, I just said hi or some crazy shit like that. I'm like, hey, get over here, man. I'm like, why, man? Who is she? Mm-hmm. I'm like, who is she? And you know what I'm saying? And I think that's, I'm not going to use, well, kind of using, is that that's a lesson for everybody, is that, and this is anybody that meditates, anybody who's about that energy and stuff will tell you, is that the best way to find knowledge or to let knowledge flow is to take yourself away from the equation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? True. To not see how to see that it's affecting you, and that's the reason you think that way, but also to see what if it wasn't you, and what would you think? You know what I'm saying? If you were not a thing, I'm sorry. And that's what I'm saying, is that the only times that I've seen that I've had to say, what's wrong with you, Terry, is when you've taken something from a stranger, you let a stranger affect your energy. Because I'm like, why would you do that? You could do so much with that energy, and you let them stop it real quick, even for a moment. And it bothers me personally, and I see this with a lot of other people when it comes to issues like racism and things like that. I'm like, who is that person? Even if that is a big person, who is that in your life?
Mm-hmm. That's true. Mm-hmm. I'll take that as an example. You use me as an example for everybody that's tuning in that may not, that may have that example for yourself. Don't let someone alter your energy or your message, regardless of what that is and what the timing of it is. Make sure that you stay true to that. And you might have to start that at the beginning of your day. Today I'm going to be doing this. Today I'm going to be happy. Today I'm going to be, pushing love out of me no matter what. And as soon as you make that decision, all those instances you interact with is the universe testing you, like, is that what you really want? Because, there's an opportunity for you to be mad right now. Yeah. Oh, you really do want to be happy through this. Okay, I'll make sure you get more happy moments. Cool. And that's where it comes from. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Once again, this is the lovely Miss Bella Royale. We're Wardens Midwest.
You're going to see her compilations more often. You're going to see her designs more often. This is Wardens Midwest.
She might be a stylist for us as we get more, better equipment.
I'm gonna get them fly. Y'all gonna know when the day happens, cause y'all gonna be like, "What happened?"
We're gonna walk on. It's gonna be. We're gonna walk on. It's gonna be like a light, intro of I don't even know. It's gonna be some crazy stuff.
As long as you don't put me in a zoot suit, I'm good.
I got a zoot suit already.
So I actually like the whole swing jazz era, so I would actually wear a zoot suit.
All I'm saying is I'm not gonna be. I'm your puppy.
Make sure y'all follow, like, subscribe, everybody. Wardens Midwest, House of Royale _ we appreciate the love and everybody tuning in and commenting and staying focused with us. We'll be back next Wednesday.
Thank you, King.
8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Turn up or turn around.
Yeah.
Get back. almost.